Welcome to the Deer Hunter Podcast, a platform created to entertain, educate, and evolve the modern-day deer hunter.
So you got up and
We
went
got
fishing?
up at 5:30,
Oh my god.
and then we went out perch fishing. Yeah, and I thought we were gonna really put the hammer on him. We set up in one spot, caught a couple little fish, and I was like, let's get out in the lake. And so we, Dustin and I, we broke our shanty down and we went out in the lake and set up. And we told these guys, we're like, dude, if we get into them, we'll call you, and come out there. Literally, Dustin didn't even have his pole in the water. I dropped my jig down there, and school of big old perch came in. It was just like boom, 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 started ripping them out. I'm like, get out here,
Get out here. So we're like, oh shit, tear the shanty down. Run
Yeah,
out there to not catch shit.
we had a couple more schools of fish come through, and we pulled a couple more out, but then it just shut right off.
Did you say you had a Vexlar going or no?
Yeah, is that the little flashy?
Yeah.
The little cert.
I'm not very knowledgeable.
Yeah, Dustin pulled that out. I'm like, what the hell is that for?
I saw you're like, I don't know what I'm looking at, but I caught fish.
Right,
Well, we're fishing 6 feet of crystal clear water,
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's
right.
you
Those-
don't need them for anything
Those
around
take
here.
a little bit to
No.
get used to. Those Vexlars, it took me a while, but it's slick once you get the hang of them. It's
Yeah,
like drill a hole, drop it in, nothing, drill another hole.
yeah.
What is it? Is it sonar or
It's
radar
sonar.
or what?
Yeah, it's basically the same concept as any other fish finder, except you're looking at those lines. It's pinging off of things, and it's telling you different heights
Yeah.
Yep.
or different water levels, so you can track your lure as you're dropping it. You can see that line
You
pinging
can watch
back.
the fish follow your
Yeah.
lure
That's
up.
the
It's
cool
kinda
part of it.
cool.
Yeah. See, I'd have to just pay attention to it for
Like
a
when we
little
were
bit.
Yeah.
fishing in Simcoe in like that 50, 60 foot of water, it would have been great for there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But Lake St. Clair, there's no point to it.
No. Yeah, you get in shallow, you don't even really need that. But if
Right.
you're fishing suspended bluegill in 20 feet of water,
Crappies. And,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have one?
I don't.
No. I
Never,
steal my
never had a
dad's.
need for it.
Yeah.
I've fished with guys in the UP that had them before, and for bluegill, we'd be sitting in the same shack. I didn't have one. He did. He's out fishing me like 3-1 every time because he could see what depth they were
Like
at.
the depth, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess since we're almost 10 minutes in, you guys should probably introduce yourselves.
Oh, have we been
everybody's
recording
just-
this whole time?
I mean, I just turn it up. You know what I mean? Like a lot of times we'll record for like 10 or 15 minutes before, and then when I go to like edit the audio,
Yeah.
I might trim the first 10 minutes right
Yeah.
off. You know what I mean?
Just kind of
drop it
get
in.
flowing beforehand.
Yeah.
and,
Exactly.
as unprofessional as possible around here.
Ladies first.
I am Amber Casey.
Yeah, you're the
Um,
first female to,
To do
to
be on your
sit-
podcast?
well, no, to sit in the studio though. And
Oh.
yeah.
Is that a little out of your comfort zone, or?
No, I've been looking forward to it. I want to get more girls on, honestly.
It's funny. I just was thinking about Stacy. Did you meet? Oh, you weren't at the last pint night.
Who is she?
She's the other new board member of
We-
the.
Oh, I
of
think I met her
BHA.
last
At the
weekend.
Yeah, she
expo.
was-
Oh,
She
yeah.
live in the UP?
Yeah.
Nope.
Oh.
She lives not far from me in Grand Rapids.
Oh.
She was super excited. I think she bought her first stick bow while she was over
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Did I meet
Yeah.
her?
I
She's
did.
short,
I think-
short, long brown
Does
hair.
she spend a lot of time in the UP?
Yes,
Yeah.
she camps a lot up there and
Okay.
hikes a lot with her
Yeah,
dogs.
I met her.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about, like, man, we should have asked her to come over.
I
But-
talked to her for a little while that night, and then actually I found her on social media this
Okay.
week, and we've been going back and forth. She has an Australian
Yep.
Shepherd, and so do we, and she was drinking Founders. I'm like, I like Australian Shepherds and Founders. Like, are we best friends?
Yeah, did we just become best
Yeah.
friends?
She's like, do you
Go do
want to
karate
come
in the
over
garage.
and do karate? Possibly.
Yeah, and my sidekick is here with me today.
I'm Pat Casey.
And you guys do a lot of hunting together, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're just a couple no-names that love hunting and drinking and fishing and
You name it, we're doing it.
yep.
That's awesome.
Just got married last year in May. So newlyweds, honeymoon stage.
So what did you do for the honeymoon? Go elk hunting? Was that
We
the
actually went
honeymoon,
fly
or-
fishing in Breckenridge.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
that was a blast. That was my first time fly fishing before.
Yeah.
I've always just bait casted
Yeah.
for brook trout in the UP. And
Yeah, I was trying to get him into it, and I finally talked him into doing it in Colorado because it's always been like a dream of mine is fly fishing in the Rockies.
Yeah.
And, signed up the first day, a guided trip, and then we did it on our own. We rented some gear the next couple days and did some hiking.
That's
and,
awesome that you
yeah.
can rent gear out there.
Yeah,
Like,
it was cheap too. It was
Yeah.
like $60
For the day.
For the day,
That's
everything,
because
absolutely
you
everything.
could spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars to get outfitted for fly fishing.
Oh,
yeah,
believe me,
with
yeah.
the waders and everything. I mean, it's
Yeah.
we did that after we got back.
oh, yeah,
I'm
there
like,
you
that's
go.
all I want to do is fly fish for trout now.
I had
Yeah.
a couple fly rods beforehand, but we picked up a couple more, and we don't tie or anything. We don't do it enough.
You
We
guys,
really haven't done it since our honeymoon.
Yeah.
do you know Alex Cerviniak? He's I think he's a board member for BHA now.
He's a board member for, I think, Trouts Unlimited too,
yeah,
right?
he's
Say
like
it
the
sounds
chapter.
familiar.
He's the chair for them.
He lives
but,
in Gaylord.
Okay.
He lives in Gaylord, but he fly fishes the Pigeon River Forest all
Mm.
the time, and he used to guide up there,
Okay.
and now he's done guiding. But he did when we went to the BHA rendezvous in September.
Mhm.
He did a little hour
Oh,
seminar
yeah.
on fly fishing.
Yeah,
Oh
I remember
man,
that.
he made it look so easy. The cast he was doing his stuff. I was
And
like,
then you just get pissed when you try to do it.
oh yeah, I
'cause
get
the lines
tangled
all
up in
tangled.
it. You know, yeah, it's ridiculous. He made it look effortless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's on the PRC, the Pigeon River Country Committee too, I believe.
Yeah.
Him and Drew Youngdyke
Yeah,
both.
yeah, they just
Okay.
got added to
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I don't think I met Alex yet.
You were saying earlier that you don't miss it when you were complaining about the traffic coming over here. Did you used to live on the east side?
I will just say I spent a few years on the east side.
Alright.
Okay,
Old relationship.
I got ya.
Yeah, and I did work in Plymouth for probably about 6 months, and I lived with a girl I graduated high school with over here. It was just a disaster for
Oh.
traffic. I hated it.
Yeah.
So you're
Absolutely
from
hated
the
it.
west side.
I'm from Grand Rapids area. Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
gotcha.
I've kind of
And-
worked everywhere around the state.
And you were from?
I'm originally from Kingsford, up in the UP, the West End.
Okay,
Can you tell the accent?
It's actually not that bad.
I don't know. I pick up on it pretty quick.
Yeah.
I don't hear it. Do you?
No, not bad at all. I work with a couple guys from like Calumet and stuff. And,
Oh,
yeah, they sound like they're right out of Fargo or something.
Yeah.
You don't have that, do you?
I'll wait till I get to the boats and
Yeah. And then his accent's rubbed off on me. It's terrible.
actually I lived in the Thumb for 3 years when I first started working. So I was over in Cass City for 3 years and then moved back to the UP to get closer to home, and then after 8 years met her and then moved back down
I
Boulder
forced
Ridge.
him downstate.
How did you guys meet?
Coworker, mutual coworker
Okay.
that I worked with in Grand Rapids, and he's like, "Hey Amber, I have this guy. He's from the UP," and I looked. I'm like, "He's bald. He's tall. He has tattoos." I'm like, "No," but he grew on me, and
Mm.
here we are.
How long ago, or how long did you guys know each other before you got married? Because you said you got married, what, a year ago?
Yeah, not long.
Year
Year and a half.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Driving down
5 hours.
every other weekend.
Oh man, burning the gas.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
that was worth it.
So were you like way into the outdoors, the hunting and fishing stuff before you guys met? or-
Yeah. Yep. I grew up in the outdoors in the country. I actually grew up riding horses, surprisingly, and that was kind of my life up until I didn't pick up a bow until I was 17 or 18, and hunted with my dad a little bit. You know, opening day, go hunting with daddy
Yeah.
during rifle season, and my first deer that I shot was with my bow. So actually, my late teens is when I got into it.
Okay.
And then work got in the way, so hunting took a back burner, and I didn't really get heavy into hunting until my mid-20s. Like how I am right now, like just
Yeah.
it's our life.
Right.
100% our life was
Yeah.
probably about 2013, 2014.
Okay. Yeah, that's why we had. I mean, it's part of the reason why we had you guys over, obviously, is because you're way into it,
Oh yeah.
and there's a growing trend of, I think, females that are
Yeah.
wanting to or are getting in.
Yep. And
And-
even since I first started heavy into it and 2014. It's been night and day even since then. Like you said, the growing number, it's insane, and I don't want to say it's overwhelming, but it's nice.
Yeah.
I still haven't ran into a lot of women hunters.
No.
Like I still hang out with him and our guy friends and buddies, and because their significant others don't hunt, so it's hard to relate to them. And
Well, we hunt a lot of public land, and I mean, you never run into a female
never.
hunter out there
I've
ever.
never.
Nope.
Elk hunting's the same thing. You don't run into a lot on the east side, at least. I'm sure in
Right.
Montana and Colorado, they're a dime a dozen out there. But
Yeah, and it's very rare around here, honestly.
yeah.
The only time I ever ran into one was on a motorcycle trip, actually. We were, I think it's Three Lakes Campground by Strong's up in,
Oh, yeah.
it's just south of Strong's, I think. And
Yep.
we were on our motorcycles, and we were just camping there for the night. And we look, and there's just this chick solo camping by herself, and she walks over. There's 6 of us. She walks over. She's drinking beer with us. She's strapped. She's carrying a 9 on her hip.
That's awesome.
She was the most badass chick ever, man. It was fun talking to her.
Yeah.
But that was the only time I've ever run into like a female out in that kind of environment.
Yeah, it's hard. I always joked, like before I met Pat, that I don't want to find a boyfriend or a husband. I want to find a chick that I can go out hunting and fishing with.
Yeah, I gather that.
Just instead of a guy, because they're like, oh, a girl, I'm not taking her out. I'm not doing
Right.
anything with her. So,
Right, and then to find one that's kind of like on your level,
yeah,
that'd be pretty difficult.
yeah. Me and Stacy have kind of bonded a little bit.
Yeah, I can
so,
see she's.
so that's nice.
I was gonna say balls deep, but that would be relatively inaccurate statement. But yeah, she goes solo camping in the UP by
Yes.
herself with her
Yeah.
dogs
She's a little more. I mean,
in the winter.
I would love to do that, but that's a little more hardcore than I would go in the winter. Yeah.
Dude,
That's-
I like
that's-
having company when I'm camping out in the middle of the
Yeah.
woods in a tent.
Yeah.
She's like, no, let's go by myself with my dogs.
Yep.
I mean, the winter camping, yeah. I mean,
I was just like camping out west when it got cold. I'm like, I know I've lived in the UP and it's 20 below zero sometimes, and I don't want to go camping that.
No.
right?
Like, yeah, just to go out and I'm gonna go, elk hunting. We had a reason to be sitting there in the cold, but
Right.
she's like, oh, I'm gonna go freeze my ass off for 2
Yeah.
or 3 nights.
Yeah, I can't shoot anything, but I'm just gonna go there.
Yeah,
I think she was rabbit hunting though.
Oh, was she?
she was
She did
the
go.
one time.
Mm.
Yeah, she just had an impromptu
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, she just went up to Paradise and went up that way. I think she tried to hunt in a few different areas. I think she was actually bow hunting for rabbits, but
Man, that's awesome.
She's
Yeah.
probably gonna listen to this podcast and get all embarrassed because we're talking about her.
Well, we'll have to have her on
Yeah, sure.
Yes,
sometime.
definitely.
I can tell she has a personality, so it'd be nice to sit down and.
Yeah, and she's very smart, very, very smart,
She-
knowledgeable on all of the, outdoor crap going on.
At that expo, she ran over to the BHA booth right after she bought her bow. And it was legitimate the same excitement I saw on my 5-year-old's face on Christmas morning when she got that bow.
That's
It's like-
great.
it was awesome.
That is
You could
great.
tell she's just super passionate about it.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, did you start the record on the camera?
Yeah.
Okay, just double checking.
I've improved over.
We
I
literally
haven't
have done like
trained.
an entire episode before, and he's like, "Shit."
2 episodes, actually.
to teach the young Padawan.
Yeah, that kind of stuff happens though when you work all day and we get here, and we always say like, "Oh, we're gonna start at 7 or 7:30," and then everybody kind of trickles in between 7 and 7:30, and then by the time we actually sit down and do anything, then have computer problems. It ends up being 8:30 before we get started, and then we say we're gonna go an hour and a half, and we go 2.5 hours, and Drew's just sitting there looking at me like,
Yeah, I get up at 4 a.m. for work,
Right.
like
Oh.
every day. And it'll be like, I'll be looking at my phone, it's 11:30 at night. I'm like, you motherfuckers did it again.
So this is probably nice to start.
Oh,
at
this is
5
amazing.
5 o'clock.
Yeah.
"Oh, yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. This is great. Like, it's what time?
It's 5 o'clock right now.
5 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon. It's what, 15, 20 degrees out, snowing sideways, and we're
Yeah.
sitting in here with a wood burning stove going, having a couple beers, and
And then after a 3-hour drive
It's perfect.
in this weather, having a couple beers is gonna be.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah, relax.
My head will probably be on the bar sleeping.
have you been hunting and fishing your whole life? Did your parents get you into it, or what was?
Yeah, actually, I mean, my dad my dad worked for UPS, and he had a decent amount of time off while working there. And I first started grouse hunting with my dad, and then got into rifle hunting for deer. And then once I got big into rifle hunting, he didn't really have time to take time off because he didn't have seniority up on top of the list. So my uncle at the time, he had like 150 acres with a cabin on a river up there, and he kind of took me under his wing when I was like 14 and taught me how to shoot, got me set up that way. I just constantly, year after year, hunted at his camp. I never got into bow hunting until
That was fairly recent.
2008.
Okay.
It's about the same time period.
Yeah, that's kind of when I first started that. I mean, I always rifle hunted, grouse hunted. I never turkey hunted until I moved downstate either, because we never really had a ton of turkeys up there.
No. Nuh-uh.
So I got hooked on that, which was so much fun. I love turkey hunting. But yeah, then I just got huge into bow hunting once I started. It was just nonstop.
Trout fishing you'd always been into. I had never gone trout fishing until I met him, actually,
Right.
like on the river. I'd always loved the river, and I was so excited. I remember the first time we went out. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to marry this guy. This is awesome.
Yeah, just especially up there because you don't run into many people
No.
on a river.
Even with all it's all public land up there. You know, that's how we access, and there's nobody.
Oh, you just sit there and walk all day long.
Yep.
4 hours of walk and don't see a single person.
I don't think we've ever ran into anybody up there, have we?
Nope. I mean,
Oh.
you'll go. Normally, I know which spots I want to go in at, and you'll go past some people that are camping on the river, but there's always a road that's paralleling it. You can just keep working further north or wherever down the river and just pick another spot and jump in.
Right.
Yeah.
But I love that. That was so much fun.
Yeah, there's some good honey holes up there.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah, I
We
really
won't talk
wanna-
about that, though.
I want to get into that more. Landon from Lifestyle Lost, he's super into trout fishing streams and whatnot, and Dustin's super into turkey hunting. So
Yep.
if you're ever looking for some inside information, they might not give you their honey holes, but they'll lead you in the right direction
I
for
think-
that side of the state. You know?
I
Yeah.
think it'd be fun just to hook up with them sometime, you know, find a piece of public land that none of us has been on and just
Yeah.
go and run and gun and see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, I learned a lot on turkey hunting just on my own.
In the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, turkey hunting seems to be one of those things you could pick up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
The birds are relatively forgiving. It's
Yeah.
not like hunting mature deer or anything.
And you can't pattern them. You don't know what the hell they're gonna do. You know,
Right.
you can kind of call to them and talk to them, but you don't know at all.
Yeah, I killed that one a couple years ago. My grandfather killed that one. That's
I
the
didn't
only
even
turkey.
see that one.
That's the only turkey I've ever shot, actually.
I've
But
only shot one. No, two.
Two.
you know, I was telling you earlier that my wife wants to get into hunting this year, and she wants to bow hunt. And I figured, what better way to get her started than spring turkey? Because we can sit in the blind, have a little bit of, a little bit of cover in the blind, and be able to get away with a little bit of movement, which is great for somebody that hasn't hunted
Yeah.
before. And
Yeah.
You don't have to drill her on scent control yet.
I don't
For
really
turkey hunting.
even drill myself on scent control, so yeah, that won't be an issue for us. We'll be pretty much hunting the wind, but yeah, I know what you're saying. But she's a good shot with a bow.
Yeah.
She's never hunted before, so it'll be interesting to see how that translates to, when, and she doesn't understand yet that's different when you're shooting at something that's
Yeah.
alive and
Yeah.
moving, and you
Yep.
get some nerves and adrenaline
Oh,
going,
yeah.
but that might not even bother her either. So it's going to be interesting season. She's got a new bow coming here in the next couple weeks too that we're gonna set up.
So you
We're gonna
both got Parkers?
Yep, yep.
Nice.
And so we're both gonna start shooting, and she's got to do hunter safety
Yep.
and
Oh yeah.
all that. So
Cool.
it'd be interesting. She wants to do a lot of hiking,
Yep.
so we're gonna do some backpack hunts and things like that. And I'm handing down my backpack to her. My plan is to put all our clothes, our cold gear clothes in there, and then on my frame pack I can take 2 tree stands and sticks, and we'll see how it works out. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, say be careful because then you might be a little screwed and not find a babysitter because both of you guys are going to want to go out.
Right. Yeah. Well, we're lucky. We got my parents and her mom, who all live locally and help us out a lot.
Yeah,
so
that's good.
we'll have some opportunities. It will be, it will definitely be tough to find the time to actually commit to doing it. But
Yep.
once the boat comes and we get it all set up, I feel like we'll be pretty committed to it. And I just got some camera equipment, like camera arm and stuff. So I'm hoping that I could potentially film her a little bit
Heck yeah.
this year. Just put a camera over her shoulder and be.
That's what we
kinda
wanted to
interesting.
start getting into.
Yeah, we haven't tried that yet. We need to get a camera just to have one. I mean,
We've
I have
had-
a GoPro, but you can only go so
Yeah.
far with that.
Right.
We've
Right.
had a few hunts already, whitetail, turkey, that late CWD hunt. I'm like, we needed a camera. This was
Yeah.
such a cool hunt, and
Right.
so maybe that'll be another goal.
I'm
this
so
year.
apprehensive about the filming of hunts thing. Like I don't personally want to be filmed ever. Like I
Really?
feel like when I get out in the woods, it's me in the woods. I don't want to have somebody over my shoulder with like a camera right here. Like I mean I don't mind filming somebody if my tags are filled. I'll go film you all day, but I don't know. It's
Come on,
kind of like
man.
it's my time.
Tell me what the wind's doing.
Yeah.
What day is it?
Shut the fuck up.
Right. Yeah, we were talking about that yesterday. It's nothing that we're gonna get head over heels
No.
crazy into,
Yeah.
but it would be fun every now and then.
Oh yeah.
And to look back on, and
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
heck yeah.
And then it would be awesome if we ever lined up where somebody killed a real nice buck and you end up getting it on camera. I mean,
There's
nice.
enough
Huge.
opportunities for me to screw up my own hunt not worrying about filming.
Right.
So I don't
Yeah.
really need to add that challenge quite yet.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, I had 4 opportunities all season at bucks. 2 of them were the 2 deer I killed, and 2 of them were year and a half old bucks. But that's the only bucks I saw all year. Maybe there might have been a couple more sprinkled in there, but to my knowledge, right now off the top of my head, it was only 4. So yeah, you have 4 opportunities all year,
Yeah.
and if a camera screws 1 or 2
Jack
of those,
one of them up,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
because they were
you
trying to
on
get it on film.
right?
Are you on them? No, I don't care. I'm shooting. them.
Yeah, I'm not even asking.
That's your problem.
Right. Yep, that won't be a concern of mine, but.
Now is that mainly up north or down here?
Oh, wherever. I mean, the way that she wants to hunt, she wants to. After I work all day, I have no problem sitting in a tree stand for 8 hours and not moving and just soaking into that seat and relaxing. But my wife works at a desk, so she's kind of like makes it clear to me like I am not going to be too excited to go sit somewhere for
Again,
4 hours.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, it's going to make it hard to kill a deer in the state of Michigan,
Yeah.
especially with archery equipment.
Yep.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
but she wants to try to do some still hunting and stuff. So I'm going to try to combine like the still hunting with the backpacking by actually like going a little farther and, like I said, carrying tree stands in, hanging them.
Yep.
There's a lot of work involved.
Oh, yeah.
I think doing that, and so we'll see how it plays out.
And that's something we've never really done is the public whitetail hunting here in Michigan.
Oh, yeah.
Because I grew up always having access to private property. And my
Right.
parents always had 10, 15 acres, or my grandparents. So we would, they lived at the house now for 15 years. So we've hunted the same parcel for 15 years. And you just throw a tree stand up and you walk out
Yeah.
back and you sit. And I'm getting a little tired of it. I mentioned to him, I said, we got a nice lone wolf climber. We got a couple other hang-ons. I said, let's just go out, find a piece of public land, and see what we can do.
That's it. I and my cousin and I actually bought a cabin in 54 acres in Mayo Rose City area,
Oh, nice.
and I didn't even hunt it once this year.
What?
Oh.
Yeah, I'm out backpacking my tree stand on the public land. We're also getting it selective harvest right now, so they cut down a lot of the trees, and they were working in there all fall. And plan is to, when my kids, I got the 5-year-old, 2-year-old, when they're ready to start hunting, I'll have it food plots set and all this thing, like try to tailor that property into being like a good way to bring people into hunting. But I just love throwing a tree stand on my back and grunting it out and walking a mile back into the woods and getting away from everything, you know. Don't get me wrong, it's nice to have those mornings when you can walk out your back door and climb up into a tree and sit there, but
although that's all I really hunted was public land for most of my life.
Before you
other
came
than
down here,
yeah, other than like rifle season at my uncle's property, but oh my gosh, when I first started hunting in the Thumb, there was like a few, almost like 150 acres of public land over there, which was like the only public land around there because everything's private. But hung a tree stand, changed it to the tree, did all that stuff, put up a trail camera, had deer coming in. I hunted it like 2 or 3 times. I went back one morning, and it was like a 25-30 minute drive from my house just to get there. I go in the dark, and I'm looking for my stand, and like I know where this thing is. I get up there. Somebody had cut the tree down, cut my stand out of the tree.
oh,
It was, that kind of miffed me a little bit. And then even in the UP, there were thousands of acres of state land. And my buddy and I, we were just meticulous at looking at plat books and topo maps. Like, oh, these are some pretty good draws here. And we just go, I mean, there's roads everywhere. There's old logging roads, county roads. We just go drive around and just start tromping through the woods. Even just walking through the woods, somebody had the same idea as we did.
oh yeah.
Come walking, oh, there's a tree stand. I guess we're not going to go here. We're going to have to go somewhere else. But it's just
and
crazy.
He's told me that, so when I brought up let's just go out on public land, he's like, I've had bad experiences.
Yeah, we realized that real quick when we went down to Hunt, Ohio this year. You know, and we did a lot of the Onyx maps, looking,
Yep.
you know, dropping pins, like, you know. But now everybody's watched the Dan Infault stuff. They're all looking at the maps the same way. You know, they're hunting the saddles, you know, the points. And every time you go there, it'd be like, yeah, there's all kinds of sign, but there's a tree stand right there.
That happened my first year elk hunting in Colorado. I researched the hell out of a unit. I finally, narrowed it down to a unit. Found out where you had to look, the saddles, the benches, the everything. And we went to one spot, nothing. And I'm like, well, this is the honey hole that I kind of wanted to go to that I think is. It took like 2 hours. I mean, we're 2 hours out in BFE. Get there, I'm like, oh my God, this is great. Go down this road. There's like horse trailers and campers. There's probably 8 muzzleloaders out there. Like,
Really?
well, they had the same idea as me. So apparently I'm not that dumb. Looking at maps and doing some scouting.
Yeah, it's a compliment. Yeah, you're doing it right, but so are they.
You're right.
Still sucks. And then there was like 3 hunters that came into our camp, 3 archery hunters. I think we ran into like 10 hunters that year. It was
Really?
terrible.
Well, we've been fortunate, really, the areas that we go to here in Michigan. You bumped into a guy this year.
First time ever in the Pigeon I walked into a guy.
Yeah, and I've, in 20 years of hunting up and around there, I think maybe like 2 or 3 instances where I ran into people and it was my own fault. Like, I would never be in those spots now, and it's been a while since I've ran into anybody up there.
I've found plenty of tree stands walking around out there. You know, you can tell people have hunted out there, but this was the first time I actually walked past the stand that a guy was sitting in, where you hear the tall tale whistle coming from the woods. You're like, oh no.
Shit.
Yeah, just turn around and walk away in shame,
Well, that happened to me. So my parents have a cottage like 20 minutes from our house, and it's on a lot of state land around it. I wanted to hunt there, so I bow hunted there and hung a stand. And it was huge granite bluffs. And then this area I picked, there was a creek running through the middle of it, and it was kind of swampy and hardwoods in there on either side of the creek. And I'm finding rubs on trees like this big around. I'm like, there's a huge buck in here. Never got him on camera, but I knew he was in there. And there was one night where I thought he was coming in, and I could hear him grunting off in the distance, but he never came in. So when rifle season started, I hadn't seen anybody in there. I go in dark, sit down, sun comes up, I'm looking around, I look up on the bluff, 60 yards away, I see an orange jacket.
No, yeah.
Like, really? So I go stand up, and like I whistle at him, and he's like, oh yeah, we've been coming here for 15 years. I'm like, well, I'm here right now. You had to actually come in here this morning?
Yeah.
That's frustrating.
No kidding. Yeah, I had a couple instances this year where I'm hitting a grunt call, just blind grunting, and then hear something grunt back. I'm like, it's not a deer. Like, that's a person blowing on a like Dick's sail rack grunt
Yeah.
call.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I'll have a little fun with it. I'll start messing with them, you know. I'll get like a little more aggressive about it, and then it'll just keep coming. And it's just I didn't run into anybody this year, but I did have that happen last year and this year, where on real quiet, still mornings, you know, I'd hit a grunt call and then I'd hear brr, brr, brr. It's just like, oh God, this again, you know. But that's hunting in Michigan.
Right.
Even on my parents' parcel, there's obviously a ton of smaller parcels that butt up to it, and it was toward the end of bow season. I was pissed. I went out there, and this guy has a stand like literally 50 or 60 yards away, and he got in after light, climbed up in his tree stand. I'm watching him. I'm like, what the hell is he gonna do? Lets out a few grunts. I'm like, I'll fuck with him. Same thing. I grunted. He grunted back. Nothing. Half hour later, he gets down and leaves. I'm like, are you shitting me? So that's the stuff you deal with on private land too.
Oh,
It's-
yeah.
Yeah.
It sucks.
Yeah, the cool thing about the public land is you just have access to so much.
That's
Yeah.
nice.
And you can, you have to cover a lot, but you'll find, you know, a couple spots.
Yeah,
We've been getting into spring scouting where
Mhm.
we just go really, I mean, like last year, one day we covered, I think, like 16 miles.
Oh, wow.
And out of that 16 miles, I maybe found 3 spots that I thought were pretty good. And then after hunting them this fall, like one of them's good. So
Yeah.
because stands pop up or seasonally something changes, there's a lot of variables. But for me, man, if I can find 1 or 2 good public land spots a year, you know, after 3 or 4 years, that starts to add up. And
Oh, yeah.
then
Oh, yeah.
different wind directions and things taken into account,
It's
you
like
have
you
a
have
lot
your
of
own
options.
private parcel to hunt. And you're not limited. That's the nice thing.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, property line after this, 15 acres, I can't go any further, or 20 acres.
Exactly. Yeah, after you've hunted a private parcel for a little while, there's like nothing new to discover.
No.
Well,
It
the
gets
only
small fast.
It
yeah,
does.
the only thing that was nice, like when we came back from elk hunting, was it's like we know there's deer, so we just wanted meat in the freezer. We didn't give a shit about packing in or doing anything. We just wanted to put deer in the freezer. So it depends on your mindset and
Yeah.
what your goal is. But that was our goal, was just to fill our freezer.
No, if it was brown, it was down this year.
Yeah, yep, that's for sure.
When did you guys start elk hunting?
My first time was 2016 in
Okay.
Colorado.
Did you
Yep.
guys do it together the
No.
first time you went?
No, that
First time I went was
2015.
2015. So this was my 3rd year out west in a row.
Yep.
Okay.
And I've been to Montana all 3 times.
So you're
Yeah.
hooked now, huh?
Yeah, but
We-
I was such a newbie when I first started. I didn't know squat.
But
Yeah.
we hate white. We shouldn't say we hate whitetail hunting, but
Yeah.
when we got back from Montana this year, I actually didn't whitetail hunt until like mid-October,
Yeah.
and I went out before him, sat out in the stand. I'm like, this is fucking stupid. Why am I just sitting
Yeah.
here? Why am I can't chase anything. I can't go actively pursue something.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
this is so dumb.
It's comparable to like going down south and like doing saltwater fishing and
Yeah.
then coming back
Yeah.
here and trying to pull bluegill out of a pond. It's like this is, it's just that whole novelty. It's
It
a whole different
is.
experience
Yeah,
when you get out
completely
there.
different.
Yeah.
You just get hooked. You don't want to do anything else.
Yeah.
No.
That's all we think about all year now. It's like, all right, what
Yeah.
are we going to do different for next year? And how much reading you're going to do. And so the first year that I went with a friend of mine that I worked with.
I gotta step out for a second. I drank too much coffee.
Yeah, my squirrel bladder kicked in on me also. So.
So the first year I went out there and I didn't know anything. I didn't make the decision I was going until August, and we were leaving mid-September. So I just bought an over-the-counter tag and went out there. I did a little bit of reading, just a little bit that I could. And
Well, you went out with a buddy that you thought kind of knew
yeah,
what was going on. But
Thought
So-
you had some inside information.
he had been out west maybe 8-10 times previously. So he had elk hunted before, and he had shot a few cows, and I think he might have shot a bull also. But I got spoiled because we got to hunt like a 5,000 acre ranch.
Oh man.
So he knew this guy. It was his friend's grandfather from where he grew up in Wisconsin.
All right.
And he let both of us come out there, and we had the run of this ranch. And it was private, east and west on either side, and then to the north it was all federal forest. So we could have gone up there if we needed to, but the elk were there, and first day there's just screaming bulls.
Yeah, I mean, when you get caught in that, because where we hunt up in Gaylord, there's the elk herd there, you know, Vanderbilt to Gaylord. And there was one year we went up there, and the elk rut must have been late because it was opening weekend of bow season, October 1st.
Oh,
and the elk were just bugling their asses off, and it is.
Doesn't it just give you goosebumps?
Oh, it's so crazy. You're sitting in
God,
your
it's
tree stand, you know,
awesome.
and when you're whitetail hunting, you're looking for that stick to pop or something,
or a
and
little
then you just
grunt or
hear
something.
this fucking thing just screaming its balls off. You're like, holy shit, what is going on?
It's like blood curdling.
Yeah, man, and it's just
it is the best sound.
it's so loud when you're sitting 20 yards away from it. And that thing
Yeah.
It's
just lets
loud
loose.
200 yards away.
It's also very frustrating when you're sitting in a tree stand and you have like a 6x6 walk by and you cannot do anything about it.
Yeah.
Shit my
You know?
pants. Just shit my pants.
Yeah.
It's
So
not illegal to draw your bow on an elk in Michigan, right? It's only illegal to shoot it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, because I've been at full draw on a few elk,
Just to say you have been. Yeah.
100%. Yeah, and finger obviously behind the trigger release. If there's any
Move
kind
it
of
up a little bit.
mechanical malfunction, I could have found myself probably in jail.
Yeah.
But
Probably is an understatement, I would think.
we're talking, I was only 15, 16 years old. I hardly even knew any better.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
We didn't have our dad, he provided access for us to get into hunting, but himself personally, he was never really into hunting. And so a lot of it was just like.
He was the go up for opening day of rifle season,
It's kinda like my
hang out
dad,
with the buddies,
yeah.
it
Right.
was the camaraderie of it
Yep.
all.
Yeah.
And he instilled that into us for sure. But as far as like, he'd never bow hunted or anything,
Yeah.
it was all just, but he also grew up in St. Clair Shores and then moved out to Algonac where we grew up. And when we're going through school, everybody hunts in
Yeah.
Algonac. It's just, if you didn't hunt, you were a weird kid. Like, what the hell is wrong with you? You don't hunt. So, I mean, our friends instilled the culture really into us more than anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't even know where elk hunting came from for me. Growing up, since I started bow hunting, one of my bucket list was I want to go on an elk hunt. Just the mountains. I love the mountains. I love just obviously hunting in general, but for some reason that was my number one thing, and I finally did. And I did not think it would consume me as much as it did.
I'm scared to do it.
No,
Kinda am too.
don't
My
be
bank
don't be
account is scared to
Well,
do it.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
one of those
Yeah.
things that could be a problem.
Yeah.
Yes.
And once you're set up, you're good. I mean, even my first year that I went,
You didn't have to camp or anything out there. You didn't have to get all the camping supplies.
no, that was the
and
thing.
the
We had
gear.
an old farmhouse on this piece of property that we were staying in, and it had electricity.
Yeah, it wasn't.
We didn't have
Roughing.
we didn't have water. We had an outhouse. We had to use an outhouse, which was fine
Yeah,
too.
but that's awesome. That's your first year that you went?
Yeah. So
Well,
and it was
and the
private property too.
Same place the second year
And
too.
the second year, so the first year I just totally didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what to call. I didn't know what the different bugles meant.
Did you just take this upon yourself, or was there somebody else that was doing it that was like, hey, let's.
Oh, you totally missed that conversation.
Yeah, sorry.
You're going to have to listen because
So
he went out with a buddy.
yeah,
Okay.
and he had been out there 10 different times before that.
I got you.
So
My bad. Sorry, listeners. I was outside.
So yeah, I mean, it's like I didn't know what all those different calls meant for the cows that they were making and what the bulls were making.
Like the language. No
Yeah.
clue what the language was because there is an art to it.
Oh,
That's a whole nother podcast.
I mean, my second year I had learned a little bit more just from the stuff from the first year, and I didn't know about that elk nut app the second year.
Have you ever heard of him?
Mm-mm.
Oh
Elk
my
Nut?
God, it's a $5 app. I would pay $500 for that thing.
Yeah. Anybody who's listening who elk hunts, download the Elk Nut app.
It is so good because he goes through all the different calls, what they mean,
Yeah.
what you should do if you hear them, if you make one of the calls and you hear a different call, what you should do to reply to him. And he gives you tips and tricks and
Do you know who runs it?
Paul Metal?
Paul, yeah.
Meldal?
So yeah, it's something with an M for his last name, but he's been on podcasts for
The Rich.
The Rich.
Born and Raised.
Yep.
Guys.
And he is phenomenal. I mean, he's been elk hunting for 30 years, him and his kids. And
that's how he called in the bull that I missed last year from 300 yards just on a string. I mean, he come in screaming, raking trees. I was at full draw at 20 yards, and he let out a scream, and I about shit my pants. And it was all him calling. And
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But he practiced all year.
Driving around in your truck,
Oh,
back
yeah.
and forth to work, calling.
Yep.
I mean, I would sit there literally, and I would read through all the different tips that he was giving and what he tells you to do. And there's a lot of different calls. I mean, I can show you guys later what it actually looks like. But then he has the audio of a real elk and how they sound, and then he'll do the same thing. So I would sit there after work and just call and use my bugle, and it's so much easier to make. It's so much easier to make the calls with diaphragm calls in a bugle tube, rather than my first 2 years. I was going out there with push like hoochie mama call, which those work. I'm not saying they don't work, but
it's nice to have a variety.
Yeah.
Right. Something different.
I can make such better calls with the diaphragm call and with the bugle tube. Normal bugle tubes, you can really make a couple different bugles, but with the diaphragm and the bugle tube, you can chuckle. You can make all the different bull sounds that you need to make to call them in and get them revved up.
It is hard, though, because my Christmas present were elk calls. That's kind of the relationship, the marriage we have. He's like, pretty much, because I didn't call at all last year, and I think he was a little upset about it because I didn't learn how. So he's like, I bought these for you. You were going to learn.
I want to be at full draw this year. You're calling.
Yeah, it's like, you messed up your chance. I'm getting my chance this year. But I tried the diaphragm. It's like a turkey call, you know, a mouth turkey call, and it's hard. It is really, really hard.
Well, the first year that I even bought those was, I think, the first or second year that I went out west. All I could make was turkey calls with them. I had no idea how to make an elk call.
You
Just
actually,
a clucking elk.
Yeah.
Out there.
You used one for turkey hunting last year, didn't you? One of your elk calls, and he called a fucking turkey.
That's hilarious.
So it takes practice with those things, but once you get it down, I mean, it's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know, was it Landon and Dustin want to go out really bad?
Yeah.
They were picking our brains at the pint night in Lowell.
We've been talking about it, but man, I'm scared to commit.
Intimidated.
Honestly.
You're intimidated.
It's not intimidated.
It's the addiction factor.
Yeah, because I know my personality, when I get into something, I really get into it. Like, read hours and hours on it and spend way too much money that I shouldn't on things.
And we did spend quite a bit of money because there's a few random things we still had to buy before we went out last year. But now it's just the tag. I say it's only the tag when it's like $800 for a tag. But
and
gas and your time off,
work and food and
hotel room usually at least on the way back.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because that's 30-some hour drive, isn't it? To Colorado.
23.
Yeah, it was 23 to Montana. We went to Livingston last year, and the 2 years before that, I was like 60 miles
northeast of there
in a town called Two Dot.
But it's about 23 hours.
Yeah, it's a haul.
That's I mean, that's rough.
Yeah.
So
Two
over
people,
the
I mean, you can only drive so
Yeah.
long.
See, in Montana's weird. So if you put in for a draw, you can put in for a special draw unit.
Yes.
And if you don't draw, you just get a general tag.
And these units are units that have like higher concentrations of elk or better management or what?
I think it's less hunters and like
pressure,
maybe a little more trophy class.
Yep.
Yeah.
They only allow so many tags, so that it's
similar
less
to like
pressure
Iowa's whitetail tags.
Yep.
But you can get, if you don't draw on those units, you get a general combo tag. So you get an elk tag and a deer tag,
which is mule deer or whitetail. So that's kind of nice. You have that opportunity.
And I don't know, I've done some looking, and I don't know if you put in for a special unit, if you can just only draw an elk tag if you don't draw the special unit, because
I don't know.
The first 2 years I had deer tags with me too. I put one stock on a mule deer buck the whole entire 2 weeks I was out there, I'm like, spending that extra $300 for the deer tag was pointless
Yeah,
because
and
you're just elk hunting.
when you go
Right.
out there, you want to shoot an elk.
Yeah,
It's
oh,
like
yeah.
you're not splitting your time between
A mule
between the
deer would
two.
still be cool.
Oh yeah.
You know, I would still love to shoot a muley for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
you want elk.
But when you're spending that much on a tag, like our tags come with fishing or
small
fishing
game.
license and small game. It's like, oh, we brought our fly rods. Let's go fly fishing. No, we didn't even do any fly fishing.
Yeah.
We were right next to the Yellowstone River, and
Yeah.
we didn't do any fly fishing last year.
I guess if you would have tagged out like 2 days
Oh,
in,
yeah.
you would have
Yeah.
probably fished.
Yeah.
But
That would have been a different story.
right.
But no, I was gonna say we actually made our own food, dehydrated it, a lot of
Yeah.
it last year. So that was a big money saver.
Yeah.
I bet.
We bought our breakfast, so that was like
Yep.
$100. But no, if you take the time to dehydrate all the meat and the vegetables and do it yourself, that's
awesome.
huge.
Yeah.
A lot more. It's better for you too.
Yeah, you don't have to go too crazy. I mean, burger, rice, couscous.
Yeah.
We did some vegetables.
I did a stroganoff, so you just put like, I don't even know what the hell I put in. Now I have the recipe, but like mushrooms, you
There's
know,
got to
your
be
broth.
all kinds of stuff online for recipes
Yeah.
on how
Yeah.
to do it and whatnot.
Yep.
So you guys drove out there. You just drove straight out.
Yeah.
On the way out, we drove straight out.
And so are you just getting to a trailhead or like what's your destination?
This year is a little different because we did have access to private property.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a friend of mine from college. I went to school up at Michigan Tech up in
I just
Houghton.
caught your UP accent when you said college.
Oh.
So a friend of mine and him and his wife, they got their mining engineer degrees, so they're all working out in Nevada. But his wife is from Livingston, and I had heard him just talk about this in passing a couple times, and I got a hold of him last summer. I'm like,
Because we were on the fence of going because we just
Yeah.
got married, honeymoon. We're like finances. We don't want to go out blind, spend all this money on a tag and not know where the hell we're going. And it was like July,
yeah,
June or July. He's like, I know somebody out there. I'm like, where was this like 3 months ago?
so I got a hold of my buddy. And I'm like, hey, do you want to go elk hunting this year? We're thinking about going out west, and I know you had talked about wanting to go before. And he's like, no, I can't go this year, but hey, my in-laws live in Livingston. I'm like, well, you mind asking them if they wouldn't mind us coming out there and hunting? And they have like 450 acre ranch, which in elk country is tiny.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Is
those,
it was 400 acres. We're like, oh, sweet, 400 acres. You get out there. We're like, this is like a 10-acre parcel in Michigan.
yeah,
Because
This
can
isn't
you like
anything.
see to the other side? I mean,
Well,
pretty much.
their
Right.
property was a little not unique, but it was kind of in a bowl. So we were a little limited as to what we could do. We were down here, and then you could just see the whole mountainside. So if
Like
there were
straight
elk
up.
on the mountainside, then the elk could see us. So it was a little different.
They had a few pockets of woods, but they just had it logged, I think, that year or the year before, so it was a little thinned out in a few
Yeah.
spots. But the
Mm.
elk still hung there.
Yeah.
And then it was nice because to the south, there was a full section of state of Montana property.
Like state land, yeah.
And then on either side of that, it was private, and then federal forest behind it, and then straight up.
It was rugged
a peak.
territory that nobody would dare to even go
Yeah.
through.
So it's kind of nice. We had that 400 acres plus that full section kind of to
Yeah.
ourselves.
Yeah. So that,
Nice.
that was great. And we got there like noon on a Saturday. We were setting up our tent at like 2 o'clock after they kind of showed us around. Set up the
so you
tent
camped right
and-
on their. just-
Yeah, they actually have an old over the ridge homestead, which was cool. It was an old cabin, and it
Yeah.
was good for just shelter, like to store our stuff when it was raining.
Mm-hmm.
But we're setting up our tent and just bugles ripping off, and I never heard a bugle until last year, and I'm like, oh my god, I was just beside myself, absolutely beside myself.
And we didn't know if we should go after them. I'm like, oh, it's our first day here. I'm like,
It's
We-
like 3.
do we do-
That is, or it's like I'm like we need to get our tent set up. It's like 3, 4 o'clock. It's dark at like 7:30. I'm like we have 2 weeks. Like just leave them alone. Let's not push them off here. Well, they ended up. I had posted the video. They came like 300 yards from us. The herd did right at sunset. Like, oh my god, that's so cool. Let's chase them in the morning. They kept us up all night bugling. I don't think we slept because they were like 100 yards from our tent all night.
Just
Just ripping bugles all
and
night long.
Then they left for 4 days. We
What
didn't
dates
see
are
them
these?
for 4
What
days.
time of year is this? This is
So this is we were September 15th, I think, was when we got out there.
Through
Okay.
the 30th, yeah.
And I mean, between the reading I've done, you want to hit that autumn equinox, which is usually like September 22nd, plus or
Yep.
minus 6 days of that date
okay.
for elk hunting, just to catch the rut. That's also going to depend on how your moon phases are at that time, how the weather's playing in. If it's really hot, they might rut later.
Certainly.
Last year was perfect because, so you also want to play into that first full moon of September. Well, last year that first full moon was September 6th.
So it was perfect for us.
So by the time we got out there, it was a new moon, and we weren't that far from the equinox, and it was on like Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
I mean,
But they left. We got pissed. I got pissed.
30-mile-an-hour winds every day.
30-mile-an-hour winds. We couldn't bugle. We couldn't listen. You know, we could glass, but it was pretty much pointless. And we got snowed off the mountain. We stayed in Livingston for two nights in a hotel because they got like 10 inches of snow.
Really?
And we're like, fuck this. We're out of here. So we got drunk for about 2 days straight.
Yep.
Got to experience Livingston. Went back. So we're a week into it, Saturday. Get our tent all set up and go hike around. No bugles. Didn't hear anything. It's cold as shit. And we go up on that.
How cold was it? September 15th, I mean.
Well, it's worse than Michigan. It was 70 degrees, and then it got down, you know, then that front came through that
Elevation makes a
storm.
world of difference.
Huge swings.
It got down to about, what was it, 15 one night?
Yeah, it got
Really?
down to that cold.
Do you have a
Yeah.
stove in your tent or anything?
Oh,
or you
no.
Just a little pop-up backpack tent,
Yep.
Gotcha.
2-person
Yep.
tent.
And they
Okay.
had fire restrictions when we got out there because the fires were so bad.
Oh.
Yeah.
So we couldn't even do that. And then when we got back on the mountain, it was all wet. We couldn't build a fire.
Snow, wet.
Snow.
And then, so they had like 2 or 3 roads cut in when they had it logged off, which was nice because you could take those and walk through the woods and try and like make it a little bit easier. But it's toothpaste clay. You'd get clay on the bottom of your
Probably
boots.
that
Oh, that's the
big.
worst to walk.
Yeah.
You're slipping all over the place. Your
And
boots
you're
weigh 100
20
pounds.
pounds
Yeah,
extra.
oh.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Yeah, that sucks.
But then the next Sunday, we hiked around all day Sunday. It's cold. I'm pissed. I'm over it. I'm like, I know there's got to be elk around here. And Sunday night, we had decided. Monday, we're like, okay, Monday morning, let's just drive up and down the road in glass. Just see what the hell's around here.
We got to back up to Saturday when we hiked up halfway, and we sat down and glassed to the west, and you could see, I mean, it was undulating terrain, and then there was a huge meadow, like probably 2 miles
I'd
away.
say about 2 miles. Heard of probably 100.
Yeah, 100, 150, just sitting there.
We're like, now what do? We can't do anything except
Right.
just watch them. And we were just pissed. I mean, we couldn't get to them.
Yeah,
we
there
were just
was
hoping, crossing our
Yeah.
fingers that they would come over, and they never did. Well, thought they never did, but
There was one bull that we hiked up to the top, up to that state section, and we heard one bugle
yeah,
to the west, and he had like 3 cows with him only. And
on private property.
he was on private property. That's the tough thing about private property too. Yes, you have a chunk to yourself, but if they're not there and there's private everywhere else, and that's
You're
you're
stuck.
stuck.
Yeah.
You're totally stuck. And that's what happened to us. And that's why I told him, I said, Monday morning, let's get up, sleep in a little bit, get up, let's go glass, just to see if there's even any elk around here. Well, we got woke up to bugles at 3 a.m. right outside our tent again. Like, game on, bitches. So we spent the next 2 days there was a herd bull he had probably 4 or 5 cows with him.
Yeah.
And we set up at night, and he just would never come down. He's calling, and he's bugling like 100 yards up. He would just not come down.
All right.
Then we ran out of daylight every night. And Wednesday was the day that we'll never forget.
Oh. Yeah, it's like we were hunting this one bull for the Monday, Tuesday, and late Tuesday night, like 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, you hear like 4 bugles going off
Different.
all around you.
Total, right in the meadow right behind us, like right outside our tent.
You're like, oh man, this is awesome. There's there's more elk here that have moved in. Now there's some competition between multiple bulls from different hot cows.
They get more pissed off and will
Oh, yeah.
react to his. So we got up that morning, and there's this knob. Once you get up that knob, you can see everything. So we crawl up there. I'm like, let's glass see what we can see. We crawl up, just littered with elk when we put our binos up. And there's 3 bulls and a spike, and then a moose. There's a moose in there, which is kind of cool.
Great, man.
Really?
That'd be so cool to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was doing his noise and
Yeah.
Came out of the middle of the herd of elk that were in these pine trees.
yeah,
Came walking out, and he's rubbing on trees, and you can hear him just glunking,
doing
making his sounds.
whatever noise they make. So
Oh.
we got back down.
How much
and
bigger was he?
Oh,
than
they
the-
dwarf the elk.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely dwarf him.
Yeah.
He
That's
he had decent paddles on him,
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
but
And they do have an elk or a moose season out there,
yeah.
but I think it's pretty limited and
And
limited
expensive.
Oh,
draws.
I gotta think that is a hard tag to get.
Yeah.
Any
Yeah.
moose tag in the lower 48's got to
Yeah.
be pretty rare.
And the property owners were like, "Oh yeah, we've had that elk on trail cam quite a bit because we said he had some white on him, and so it's kind of like their pet. Like,
yeah.
yeah, even if we had a tag, we couldn't really shoot him anyway.
You didn't
but-
want to, whatever the hell that stupid lion's name was. Scenario.
Simba?
So,
No, what was that lion a couple years ago? That big thing
oh,
in Africa. God damn it. I can't
oh my
believe we get-
God.
For as much as it was in the news,
I
why
know
can
that's
I
gonna
not
drive
think-
me crazy.
Yeah,
I
you're
can't
gonna have
think
to.
of it.
You should
Cecil.
Google it. Cecil.
Cecil,
Yeah,
yeah.
Cecil.
You didn't want a Cecil scenario going
No,
on?
no, not really.
Ugh.
But yeah, so once the wind was a little iffy, and I'm like, let's get down, devise a game plan, because we knew they were gonna bed right there, and we got permission. Their neighbors, who's actually their cousin, has 1,600 acres.
It was 1,200.
1,200 acres, and we had permission to hunt over there because it was right on the property line that the elk were. So we drive all the way around to their ranch and hike probably a mile or 2 up.
Yeah, we wanted to stay so far away from them. Just
Because of the
wind and
thermals
the
and the
thermals.
wind, and let's not fuck this up.
Right, yeah. Well, yeah, you've been out there for 10 days or
Yeah.
whatever, right?
Yeah.
like, yeah, we have all day to get to them. Let's just take our time, play the wind right, and just circle up and around, and just get above them first.
Because when they're bedded, they don't bugle or anything. So it was kind of a crapshoot on how far, how close we could get in.
And it was kind of warm too, and
Oh, it was hot that day.
it's crazy because
Yeah.
once they bed, I mean, even during the rut, they still don't move. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes you might get them to move and call them out of their beds, but for the most part, either you catch them in the morning when they're going to bed, or catch them at night when they come out to feed.
When they're getting up, yeah. Yeah, so we circled, they're here way up and around us. Let's get above them because the thermals are still rising. So that whole scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Set up, and he called. Nothing.
Yeah, it was probably
Called,
20 minutes.
Called, nothing. And thankfully, we still had service so we could text each other. And then I'm like, well, let's get closer. I said, I think we got to get closer. So we did, set up. Nothing. I said, let's give it a half hour. I said, then we'll come up with something else. Like the 20-minute mark, he bugles. The bull bugles. I'm like, ooh, now what do we do? And you start calling again, and he just come unleashed.
So-
He was pissed about something.
So the thing is, so I went back on my elk nut knowledge, and I called, and he bugled back at me. So basically, he kind of tells you once you hear that, he's telling you to come to him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, see, this is where Pat's like, you need to learn what the hell you're doing so I don't have to do all this.
So I start doing these rapid calls, which kind of sounds like a coyote call. It's
does.
really weird
Yeah.
on how fast you have to do this. So I'm calling, and you can make as much noise too. Like, you don't have to be crazy quiet like whitetail hunting. Like,
Right.
that was my
They
biggest mistake.
anticipate hearing noise,
Yeah.
right?
That was the beauty of it, was once we figured out where he was and he's making these calls, as we're running, I mean literally running through the trees and the brush, he's making these cow calls. So he just thinks that it's a cow or somebody running
Coming
toward
right to him.
And he's just cow calling this whole time. We jump the property line, jump the fence, and we get set up, and then he starts bugling. And
Raking.
then he really lit up, and I had maybe like 3 minutes. If
It was
that.
quick.
It was quick. By
it
the
was
time
so
I set
fast.
up, knocked an arrow, and I'm hearing him, and I'm just I mean, my heart's racing right now just thinking about it.
And I can't even see this because I'm behind a big pine tree.
Yeah, because we're set up probably 30, 40 yards away.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm shaking and I can't even see it.
yeah. And I've never seen an elk up close before.
Oh,
so
they're massive.
Holy shit. That is an understatement. So when I saw his tines coming through, I'm like, all right, I get a full draw. And he steps out and he stops, just his head, and he just rips off a bugle. I'm like, 20 yards away. I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, do I take a neck shot? Do I not? I'm like, no. And when he stepped out, there's really, really tall, I call them tall trees because it's like brush, but I swear they're that big around.
It's like an oak tree bush.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
But I saw those before. I'm like, oh, they're going to be short enough. Oh, no, they covered up his vitals. Totally covered up his vitals. And that was my only chance. I'm like, shit, what do I do now? And I thought I could sneak an arrow through.
You're at full draw this whole time?
I'm at full draw. And 20 yards broadside. I'm like, this is my only chance because it's that tall shit for the whole way. There was no other opening. So I tried to sneak it through, and it hit that, and I watched it go over his back.
Really?
And he took off, and I'm like, and he's still calling, and I'm like, he stopped behind a tree, like 60 yards from me. I'm like, I'll knock another arrow. And we don't know what's going on with each other right now. I'm like, I'll knock another arrow, come up, 40 yards, put an arrow in him. Well, I get like 2 steps, and I hear his freaking bow go off. Hear Pat's bow go off. I'm like, what just happened?
Well, I figured.
And I heard it hit him. It hit the bull.
And I figured she killed him because when I was sitting there, I heard him and saw him running through these pine trees, and I had some openings that right down the hill below me. I could see him run, and he stops. I'm like, he's freaking dead. She killed him.
Yeah,
she had to have killed him.
Because he knew he's right in her lap. There's no way she would have missed him or screwed up like I did.
So I'm thinking, I'm like, all right, if he comes out again, I'm gonna stick him again just to be safe.
Right.
So I had ranged the furthest tree that I could see, which I knew he was gonna be about that distance just based on where he was. So I ranged it at like 59 yards. And I practiced out to 60, 65, and I'm confident shooting that far. I have no problem shooting that distance.
Right.
So like, all right. So I start calling again, and he steps out broadside, and he's right in the sun. So I looked real quick to see if I could see any blood. I didn't see any. I'm like, well, maybe
didn't get
a pass through, something, whatever. So I draw back, and I came down on him and on his shoulder. I should have taken like 2 or 3 more seconds because once I got to the shoulder, I stopped and I touched it off. And I heard it hit.
It was a punch. That punch you don't want to hear.
Well, I didn't see it hit because he was in the sun. And all of a sudden, he wheels to go down the hill. And when he wheels to go down the hill, I saw the arrow sticking out of him. And it's on an angle, which I'm like, okay, this is good. It was good front to back, but it was only like that far below the top of his spine. But I figured he was still dead because she hit him.
And so I run over, tripping over shit. I'm like, oh my God, you shot him. He's like, you shot him. I'm like, no, I missed him. He's like, what the hell?
Like, well, that makes my shot a little bit more critical now.
Yeah. So we're sitting there. I have like my 3rd mental breakdown of the trip so far. And crying because it just dawned on me. I'm like, I missed a monster 5x5. I totally just screwed up on that. We're sitting there in like 60 yards. I'm like, a cow steps out. I'm like, well, note to self, next time this happens, don't be a little bitch and sit here and start crying. Because she saw us and spooked. But no, he hit him too high, and
Do you think you got lung, or do you think you were in no man's land?
We didn't find. I found a couple specks of blood.
So we looked that night. So this was probably like 2.5 hours before dark, and we backed out, and we went back to the property owner's house and told him we hit one, and we're like, we kind of want to wait till morning because I wasn't too confident on the height of the shot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no,
He's
we should
like,
go out now.
No, go look for it. Okay.
Because they had pictures of mountain lions, bears. Wolves, and we saw wolf tracks when we were out walking around too.
Yeah.
So we went out and started looking, and we tromped through. We looked down the hill, and then into the woods on their property, and then back up the hill. There was a pond, so we were kind of looking downhill from the pond, everything to the west or to the east, and then back to the south. And we covered that area, never found anything. So this was the first year that Montana allowed lighted knocks.
Yeah, they had been
So
big no-no since then.
I figured we'd find my arrow. Never found my arrow, nothing. So the next day, we let them sit overnight. It was cold. It was like 20 degrees that night, so we knew it was going to be cold.
Mm-hmm.
We get back up early in the morning. Like, okay, when we were sitting there off to the east, we heard elk running, it sounded like. I'm like, maybe he went down in there, or maybe he walked that way, and we thought he went down there.
And tracking in Montana is not like tracking in Michigan. It is the worst. The terrain, the vegetation, the shrub, it's impossible to do in the dark.
And if
even
you don't,
during the day.
And even with as wide open as it is, even when you hit them, if they just go into the trees, you can't see them.
They could be 2 feet away from you, and you don't know because it's so thick.
Really?
So I found her arrow stuck in a tree.
I smoked a pine tree.
And then we went and sat down where I had hit the bull, had a little snack, and we're sweating like crazy already, just walking around in this thick stuff. And like, okay, let's walk down through where he ran through the trees, where I remember him running through the trees after he got hit.
And his arrow was...
She found my arrow.
The arrow was like 10 yards from there, and you got probably...
14, 15 inches penetration. But it broke.
The broadhead was broke off inside of him. We're like...
Expandables, or are they illegal out there, or is fixed blade, or...
You can use fixed or mechanicals, but it has to be 2-blade minimum.
Okay.
If you use either or.
He had fixed blade.
I was using fixed blade.
Okay.
So, yeah, it broke off like that much, and
we found some blood a little bit later. You know, we followed tracks, kind of your instinct, and I followed some tracks, and I found first blood, but it was like
a little speck.
Tiny, and we found one more little thing of blood, and then that was it, because it opened up. You know, we were following through some thick shit, so it was easy, but then it totally opened up. Like, there's a ton of tracks around here. This is impossible. So we kind of just scoured, did a grid search at that point, and nothing.
And we didn't look, which the property owner, their cousins, they had somebody hunting there that morning when we were looking that next day. So didn't want to screw him up, which in hindsight, I had the property owner's phone number of their son. I should have just been like, hey, can you ask him if he could just come help us look for the morning? Because we hadn't really looked around there. But his buddy said that he had seen a 5x5 walking around and looked fine. We didn't know if there were multiple 5x5s.
We only saw one 5x5.
So we figured if he saw it, he's probably still alive.
Yeah.
So
yeah, if you hit that above lung, below spine area, there's just nothing there.
We tried to stay optimistic, because I've looked at anatomy of elk. I'm like, you know, their lungs go up a little bit higher,
the top of the lungs or
higher than
something.
whitetail. Right. I said I obviously didn't see where it went in, so I'm not 100% sure. So I'm trying to be optimistic, but I heard that punch. I'm like, I don't like that sound that it made when it hit him.
And it wasn't a full pass through.
No,
I
obviously.
think it probably hit an off rib and just stopped dead.
Yeah.
So
no, we gave up the next day.
We looked for 5 hours total, and
on Thursday
never found them.
Totally blew up the mountainside.
Yeah.
I mean, we pushed all the elk out of there, and we were supposed to leave Saturday. And I'm like, it's pointless to hunt now. So we left on Friday, and I cried probably for 23 hours the whole drive home.
It's taken me a long time to figure out, and a lot of hours spent looking at anatomy. But you know, I've shot a couple deer where I was like, oh, that deer's dead to rights, you know. And then you get out and you start looking, you're like, what's going on here? What's happening?
That happened with my doe. The first doe this year, she was 1/4 2. It was a little bit far back, but it was a full pass through, blood everywhere, looked a little dark, maybe liver, for about 60 or 70 yards, just freaking blood everywhere. Then nothing, never found her. it was simple as that. We never found her.
Yeah, it's amazing how far they can run.
Oh, my
yeah.
God.
You shoot me with a bow, I'm fucking just going fetal, you know?
Right.
These things just run hundreds of yards. They're just gone.
So
Yeah.
you think in hindsight 1 or 2 more seconds and just a deep breath probably.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
If he would have known that I missed, I think he would have taken a little bit more time.
But even then, I still should have took a little bit more time regardless. Even if I knew she had hit it, if I would have had just my arrow knocked, if I was by her ready to go, I should have just taken my time either way.
right.
So that probably would have helped a little bit because I was hitting groups, 3-inch groups at 60 yards when I was practicing. I'm like, I know I can make that shot.
Yeah.
But the anticipation after a couple days of, you know, and this is
Yeah.
what we're
You
here
can't-
for. And
It
then
was
all
a
of sudden-
long 10, 11 days before that point, and that's when people ask about our elk hunt experience this year. I'm like, holy shit, that's like a 6-pack story, dude.
No kidding.
Well, you can't simulate that adrenaline either.
You
No.
can't.
There's nothing
No,
you can
there's
do.
You
not.
can't.
I tell people that have never hunted before is that I've rode wheelies on crotch rockets at 100 miles an hour plus. Doesn't even come close to what
went
it happens when you're
skydiving
pulling the trigger.
twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big
Elk
time.
hunting like completely blows that out of the water.
Wow.
I'm like, I never want to go skydiving again. I just want to go elk hunting.
So that was the other thing too. I forgot to say this. So he came out probably at like 56 yards, and I had already set my pin at 60. I had a single pin I was using. So after I had ranged that, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna set it at 60. I know I'm good to go from there in. Maybe just aim a little bit lower, and I think I probably hit 5 inches high maybe. Because when I came home, I'm like, all right, I did
He
like
simulated
20
it.
wind sprints up and down, and then knocked an arrow, drew back, did kind of the same thing, the short process. Once I got on it, I hit it, and I hit 5 inches high at 60 yards.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's our depressing elk story. It still haunts us to this day.
It still sounds fun. I mean,
And that's
yeah,
hunting, though.
you are.
It is.
That is one thing that does scare me about it, is you're really invested. Like when you go out there,
Yeah.
I'm tend to be emotional about things, you know, and like I would be really invested in that. Like
Yeah.
even when I go to take a couple days off of work to go up to northern Michigan to hunt, I'm like, you're getting a deer.
Yeah.
Like you're driving all the way up here,
You're
you're taking this time, you're
hell-bent.
spending this money. Like I'm gonna go hard at it. So yeah, if I was shelling out a couple grand and heading out west, I would definitely have the mindset where it would be like, and if something happened like it did in that scenario, I would just be like, oh my god.
Well, it was frustrating before that. So I had a couple mental breakdowns. The one was a couple days before. Yeah, I have the best husband in the world to,
I was
to
gonna,
deal.
yeah, we're gonna get to that. here pretty quick.
But I'm sitting on the side of the mountain, and we know where these elk are. They're bedded, bugling, or they were bedded down. We're a little ways apart, and I was second guessing the wind. I'm like, we probably shouldn't be here because they're gonna wind us. Blah blah blah. Didn't hear. Well, we heard like the nervous grunt. Heard this nervous grunt going. I'm like, and that's when I lost it. I'm like, they winded us. They're gone. They're never coming back. Our hunting is completely screwed the rest of the time. And it was like clockwork because he's giving me a hug and like, you need to settle down. Just settle down. They rip off a
Snap
bugle.
out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A bugle goes off. I'm like, oh, they're here. And I, wipe my tears away. I'm like, okay, let's go.
Jeez.
Yeah, I can't even imagine the whole marriage on the mountain thing. It's hard enough in the house, let alone
Yeah.
when you're doing that.
We should have been recording a lot of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was
You probably would have
It was-
deleted it all though.
It was priceless. That's all I gotta say is priceless.
Yeah.
He is the most patient person because our buddies that went out to Wyoming were telling him all these stories, and the one buddy I've known for like 15 years, he's like, I would have left your ass on the mountain. He's like, I just said fuck you and just left, and you need to settle down before we continue this. I'm like, yeah, Pat didn't do that. Yeah, I got lucky with that.
Yeah. Yeah, so I've learned a lot just over 3 years of doing this, and even more so now on like the preparation before. When you know you're going out, like right now, I'm on a mission to drop 15, 20 pounds before spring so I can start hiking with a weighted pack and bust my butt walking up and down this ski hill we have by our house all summer to get ready for it.
Well, when Landon and Dustin were asking us about it at the pint night, I think they were asking about training or whatever. I said, if you have a training regimen and you think you're doing good, you're not.
Yeah,
I said, you need to
up it.
Oh.
If you think you're doing good, it's no. Because we thought we were doing good. We got our asses kicked out there.
Yeah.
Well,
It's crazy.
everybody
It's
says, I
terrible.
mean, you can go to the gym all you want, but it's a totally different set of muscles you're
Nope.
working when you throw a pack on and
Yep.
start walking
In
elevation.
the elevation, that's a big thing.
I mean,
Yeah.
the thing is, I mean, when you're out there, you're not carrying 80 pounds with you. You are if you're packing one out, but
Mhm.
to train with that weight makes it so much easier to walk without weight.
Yeah, it feels light.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a huge. I did my second year that I went out there. Oh my gosh, I dropped like 30 pounds starting that winter up until the point where we left.
And
I
then you
was
lost like another 10 pounds out
just
there.
out there.
He was skinny. He was a skinny boy.
I mean, I was averaging 6 miles a day walking, but I was just, my partner he'd be a little tired and want to sit down and take a break. And I'm like, no, dude, we got to keep walking. We got to cover ground. We got to search into as many draws as we possibly can because we didn't have access to that private property at first, that second year, and we were hunting north of that on the federal land. I came across one elk, but I mean, I put in so much friggin' mile just on my feet walking, just trying to find something. And there was nothing up there. They were all, so that's the other thing. You want to stay away from areas that have shoulder seasons because
Yeah.
at the end of August,
What is that?
it's basically a culling of cow elk.
Oh, okay.
So there's certain units that they have a shoulder season in, and it's rifle shooting. So they have that at the end of August.
It's like an early doe, before bow season out here, which it kind of screws everything up out there.
Yeah,
Yeah. So it's
unfortunately.
for numbers.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
you start ripping off rifle shots, and these elk are going to go on private property where they know they're not going to get hunted, and then come bow season, which starts September 1st, you're never going to see an elk.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So you got to make sure you're not lining up with that.
you're
Yep.
right.
That's what we
So you
make
gotta know
sure
those
of
seasons.
before, yeah.
All
It's a process. You got to dig into a lot.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Well, just all the different rules and regulations, even in any out west state. I mean, you almost have to be a rocket scientist sometimes to figure some of these things out.
Decipher.
Yeah.
Right. Well, even in our home state, I still every year I'm like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
since when?
I know.
Forever?
I know.
No shit.
I
Yeah.
did that this year, I think.
Well, the whole tagging the
The
antlers
antlers.
this year, I never knew about that. I had no clue.
You
I don't
you
even
have
know what you're
to.
talking about.
It wasn't.
See?
It was
See?
a non-issue for me this year.
Oh,
So
okay. No, you have to have your tag on the antlers when you.
And so if you take the head off and you have the head with you,
Oh,
the
right,
tag has to be on
transport.
the antlers.
Right. You know, I wondered that, like, where do you draw the line on that? Because, like, that deer sitting there, I still have the tags on them, but after I boil them and put them on the wall, at what point are you allowed to take it off?
I don't
well,
know.
and yeah, we've had this.
It'll be a good
discussion.
question when I have Chad Stewart, the whitetail biologist, on for the state. Maybe
Okay.
he'll be able to
Oh.
answer that
Clear some
for
stuff
me.
up.
And actually, our friend Ryan, he has a contact for one of the local COs. And
Well-
supposedly he's supposed to be coming in here to do a podcast with us soon.
Nice.
So it'll be
One
a
of
good
my-
question
One
for
of my
him.
Yeah.
one of my cousins is a CO,
Oh.
and I could just text him, shoot him a text. But
Yeah. No, it'd be good to know.
Yeah.
Because I always wonder, I'm like, at what point is it okay for me to take this off?
Right.
when we
I
were,
think if it's just in your house, your garage, on your property, and you're not transporting it somewhere,
Right.
I think if you were transporting it, you'd probably have to have it with you. But if it's just here,
Right.
or if you're going to take it, I think at that point, once it's mounted, it probably doesn't matter.
right.
I know, but that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. It's like,
yeah,
it's interesting.
Yeah. I'm
See-
always checking that. Between checking, okay, where can I put a tag on a deer? Or even out west, like, you have to keep, if you shoot something, you have to keep evidence of sex
Yeah,
attached.
and the antlers don't count. You gotta
Nope.
have
Right.
proof of sex. And
yeah.
Well, that's just Montana. There's I don't know if it's Colorado or Wyoming. You don't have to have that, but you have to have the tag with the meat.
Well, and then we were a little not worried, but because Michigan changed, you can't have any bone, any
Right.
hide,
Right.
no nothing
Right.
coming back in. So it's like we're gonna have to get everything processed out there, And if we shoot a frickin' bull, we're going to have to either boil it or send it to a taxidermist out there. We can't just bring it back and do it all here.
There's another $2,000.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, your
100%.
$800 tag turned into $2,000.
Yep. You can see why we're skeptical about
Yeah.
diving into it, you know,
Yeah.
because there's just layers of investment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Little hidden costs.
When
Right.
we went to Ohio to hunt, when I went down there with the guys, we didn't end up shooting anything, but they went back down 2 weeks later. But we found the campground we stayed at actually had a deer processing station in the campground. It was a little building they built, had 2 walk-in freezers where you could hang your deer for a couple days, and then they had nice stainless steel tables where you could go in and,
Nice.
you know,
Like
debone.
a fish cleaning station.
Yeah, exactly. You could go debone everything, you know, package it, and bring it home with you. So
That's pretty slick.
Nice.
yeah.
Yeah, because you don't even like fish cleaning stations. You don't see a lot of places that have those, and those are so nice to have.
Oh, they're so
Yeah.
handy.
Yeah.
You don't have to get home at midnight and now I got to clean fish. And
Yeah.
Right.
Get up for
Thanks.
work in the morning and everything. Yeah.
yeah,
What would you say to a first timer that's interested in making the move on going out west and doing some elk hunting? Like, what's the couple things that that you've really figured out where you're like, man, people need to know this, or I wish I had known this ahead of time?
It's a little different if you're doing, I mean, most people, their first time going to be public land. Just know the territory, know your area, do your research, do your scouting. You can do a ton from anything between Onyx Maps, Google Earth, just a regular satellite view. The state that you're hunting in has some good information on whatever unit you choose. I think that's number one. And then
have multiple backup plans. I mean, have a
Yeah.
plan A, plan B, plan C, plan
different
D.
spots where you know
Right.
you want to go.
You're not fully invested in one thing, and if it goes wrong, the whole thing's screwed, right?
Or if
Yep.
there's no elk there and you have to go to a different spot, if you didn't look for a different spot,
Then
you don't know
you're
where to go.
you're going in blind and it's pointless. You're just
Right.
wasting a tag.
Get
at
Onyx
that point.
Maps if you're going out
Onyx is a lifesaver. Yep,
Mhm.
that is for sure.
there. That's huge.
Yeah, I don't operate nowadays without that.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, even
For so
here
many
in
reasons.
Michigan. Yep. Like I said, even if you're hiking, if you're a non-hunter, it's like Stacy. Stacy uses it a lot for
Yeah.
just her backpacking
Oh, I
stuff.
imagine.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, the Elk Nut app.
Oh, big time. To put a plug in for him, I mean, that was worth its weight in gold.
Yeah.
I learned so much just from that. I mean, other than listening to podcasts like the ones from the guys that out west, like the Rich and a few other ones, where it was just strictly elk hunting talk.
You learn a
Right.
lot from everybody else's
Oh, yeah.
experiences, and
You learn a lot about that.
Do you follow like the Kafaru cast or Gritty Bowman? Or
Yeah,
Gritty
Gritty
Bowman.
Bowman.
Yep, he's another good one.
Yeah, well, his co-host Aaron Snyder
Aaron
now
Snyder,
started
yeah.
his own Kafaru cast.
Oh,
Oh,
and
that okay.
it's grown real quick to be one of my favorite podcasts.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Wapiti Wednesdays.
Wapiti Wednesdays.
Those were the best ones. So I mean,
Yeah.
between doing that, I did some reading online just to kind of get an idea of how to go about things. But I think most of my knowledge came from podcasts
Yeah.
and that app. Oops. Knocking stuff over.
It's just knowing, knowing the language and knowing your country or the country that you're going to.
Yeah.
Practice long distance shooting.
Right.
Practice out to 70, so 50 is a chip shop.
And I've been this year, I'm going full retard, and I'm building my own arrows this year because I bought that Archer's Advantage disc.
Program.
To get your front of center and everything just dialed
Yeah.
in perfectly.
Yeah.
Like a buddy of mine that I've known forever, him and his buddy are just crazy about that, and it drives me insane. And I told him just yesterday, I'm like, I regret introducing you to them because he is turning into
But it's huge though, because even it'll translate even to whitetail hunting, because
Oh, yeah.
if you can build an arrow, I look more at momentum now than I do kinetic energy, because
See, I'm a kinetic energy fiend.
momentum's going to drive that arrow through any animal you shoot it at. So if I can build an arrow that has the correct spine, front of center, which front of center has been kind of debatable recently. I still think it's good personally, but you build an arrow that's going to have the right spine and good momentum, you could make a marginal shot on a whitetail and it's just going to plow right through it. And instead of not having the right setup, and it just bounces off like a 22.
Right.
So I'm going to be building an arrow this year that it's going to be heavy, but I'm still going to be getting about 265 feet per second, which is still not bad.
Your draw length is like 35 inches.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you're a big guy. You're probably shooting telephone poles.
Yeah,
range,
exactly.
You know, so.
Right.
So you get to set up, practice long distance. I mean, even if you can shoot 80 yards, a 50 to 60 yard shot's going to be a chip shot if you have the room to do it.
So there's a lot to it. It's the practicing, it's knowing the country, the language, and then training and backpacking, having the right gear. But I think just doing your scouting is number one.
Yeah.
And knowing what you're getting yourself into.
Right.
Yeah.
I've seen a huge improvement with my long range shooting with having a heavier FOC.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. That and a little bit of coaching, advice from people that know how to shoot, coupled with mathematically building an arrow versus what I used to do, just buy an arrow.
Just off the chart.
And then 100 grain
you go
field
to
tip.
the pro shop. I use the term pro shop loosely. And they're like, what arrows do I need? What's your draw weight? Like,
Yeah.
Oh, 350s.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. No other questions asked. Like,
Nope.
right.
You want 100 or 125 grain broadheads?
And
Right.
that's on, you nowadays to, there's the resources are there. All the information's there. You just need to get it and apply it. And it can seem intimidating at first, but it's not too bad once you
It's
get the general
interesting
idea.
to me. Like,
Right.
we'll
Fun.
just banter back and forth on it. Like,
Right.
well, what spine do I have? Well, can I get away with this spine if I shoot this grain arrow? And, well, what's my front and center on that? Well, what's my kinetic energy? No, I don't want to do that, so change this up. It's just always.
Right. Yeah, I started
we're back and
really
forth.
figuring or paying attention to when I started hunting with a longbow.
Yeah.
You know, because I was shooting 100 grain field tip, and the arrows come out of the bow like sideways. And I'm like, what is going on, I'm watching these arrows go down range, and I'm like, they're straightening out, and they're kind of hitting where they're supposed to. But I'm like, what's going on? And then you start reading, like, how to tune a traditional bow, and it has everything to do with your spine, your FOC, the length of the arrow, and all the different variables. And now, I end up with 30 grain insert, 100 grains weight on the back, and then 175 grain. So I'm shooting like 295
on a traditional.
on my longbow, and that thing comes out straight.
So there's still like a kind of a science even to traditional, because I would just think
that's
stick and
where it all-
string.
That's
you
where
know,
it all
you
came
just
from.
throw.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
there's no move your rest left or right.
Yeah.
I mean, you can put like a piece of felt or something to bump out.
Okay.
Well, if you think about it too, just from the sheer fact of that arrow is resting on your riser.
Yeah.
So that whole arrow is traveling down your riser, whereas with a modern bow, you have a drop away rest. There's very little actual arrow to bow contact. So you have to have your arrow perfect.
Yeah.
If you can even spine index them.
Yeah.
So they're flying off that riser all at the same index, because there's actually, if you add the arrow, there's a stiff spine and a weak spine and every carbon shaft, and if you can get those twisted just perfect to where they're coming off the riser the same way,
Yep.
it gets your arrow flying perfect.
So it's
every
not much
single time.
different than compound.
You need that heavy weight to compress that spine, so that spine comes around without having a bunch of contact, but you need it to recover instantly and fly straight, and it has to be flying straight when it hits, because you don't have 280 feet per second.
Right.
You have
Exactly.
180 feet per second.
Yeah.
So that arrow better be going straight, and it better be heavy.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Yeah, see, we don't know. Traditional is.
but it all is applicable.
Oh yeah,
and
for sure.
all the way up and even through guns.
Yep.
Like really, when you start really like getting into it, you're like,
Oh yeah.
well, this isn't right either. Shit, I don't know anything. Yeah.
Yeah, last year I went and actually bought my own arrow saw and got, fletching jigs and everything. So I got deep into it this year, building my own arrows.
That's what he's starting to get into. I'm like, I better learn too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna be shooting like a 600 grain arrow.
Oh, wow.
Is it really that heavy now?
It's gonna be once I.
Yeah, I think a lot of guys like to end up around 580.
Holy
What's
shit!
the name of that?
Yeah.
There's a company out of Australia that makes really heavy carbon arrows. It's like Zeller or something.
There's that. There's Grizzly Sticks. I know is a company that pairs like heavy arrows and broadheads
But
and stuff.
they make like a nice, not micro diameter, but a smaller shaft carbon arrow that just weighs a shitload grains per inch. So.
And see, I couldn't
That'd be
go
interesting.
with the poundage I'm shooting. I bumped up to 70 pounds. I was at 67. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna bump it up to 70. I couldn't get away with like the arrows I was shooting. I was shooting VAPs, which I loved them up until some things that happened this year. And even once I plugged that stuff into this program, it said my arrow was too weak.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, that makes a lot of sense now. Okay. So like, all right, what can I shoot? So I'm gonna have to go to a 260 spine, which is crazy.
Do you shoot paper? Have you?
I paper tune.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I'll paper tune my bow. This year I'm gonna bare shaft tune through paper, and then fletch it, and then paper tune it again, and then a knock tune after that once I fletch it, just to make sure everything's perfect. So
all we did last year was we paper tuned a few times.
Yeah.
Like before we went out west, I had make a couple adjustments and a knock tune. Those are the only two things that we did last year.
I wish I would have bare shaft tuned before I had arrows fletched, because I bought them pre-fletched. Well, they're not doing that stuff. They're not trying to find that dynamic spine
Right.
and start from there and then really get specific with it. So
Yeah.
I'm going to get really specific with it this time.
What kind of broadheads have you had good luck with flying out to those kind of distances? Because they're not all created equal, right?
No. So I didn't want to shoot a mechanical at an elk just because I was afraid. I mean, it's bigger rib bones, just bigger in general.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to have that factor.
That variable.
Yep. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to shoot. I think I stuck with the G5 Montex I just started shooting those.
Yep.
Because those things would shoot just like my field points.
Okay. Please.
So they're solid. I mean, it's a solid broadhead. It's a 3-blade broadhead.
Oh yeah, we shot them for a long time.
And I like it. I went away from that because I shot a deer with that broadhead, and it was a double lung. And she ran almost 200 yards. So I felt it didn't do enough damage, but I wanted something that was going to punch through an elk. So I'm like, this one flies straight. I know I don't have to retune to my broadheads. So I stuck with that. But actually this year, I'm switching to a 4-blade slick trick.
That's a good move.
That's what I'm shooting.
I think. My biggest complaint with the Montex is they're noisy.
Yeah.
Yes.
That vented broadhead, if you're shooting a long distance, you're literally going to hear that thing coming.
Those are the new ones, aren't they?
So
What are that? No, those are.
we started shooting that this year.
What is it?
That is called Tooth of the Arrow.
Yes.
And they make that in 100 and 125.
That's tiny.
Yeah. That thing
So she said.
shoots
What?
easy.
Sorry.
I hope
Talk to
that
you
wasn't
later.
uttered on the mountain.
Hey, if it doesn't, size isn't everything.
No.
That's how you use it.
You put it in the right place and you do the right thing, it does its job.
Amazing stuff happens.
Yeah. So that thing is the first fixed blade and I think if you look over on my bench, you'll see there's dozens and dozens of broadheads that I've shot. That is the only fixed blade that I've ever shot that flies 100% like a field point.
Should mention that to Dave.
Is it a 1-inch?
Yep, it's a 1-inch.
They do
and
make a bigger one.
They make a bigger one. It's called the XL, but I've had multiple people tell me that they've had planing issues with it.
Is it this? You mean bigger one, like grain wise?
They
Or
make
diameter?
well, that's
Oh.
100. They make the 1-inch in 100 and 125, and then they make also a larger cutting diameter. It's called the XL.
Is
and
it the
it's
same length like this
pretty
way?
much.
Pretty
Yeah.
much.
Yep.
Because that's really like squatty.
Yep.
It's terrible.
It puts
yeah,
a-
very
it's
short
crazy.
profile.
Yeah.
It puts a big hole and stuff though with the 4 blades.
You figure
That's the thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that slick trick, the doe I shot. Oh, freaking ginormous.
You know, Rage advertises like 3-inch cutting diameter. Yeah, 3-inch in a perfectly straight,
Yeah.
line.
and if the thing opens,
Right.
and
Right.
if you don't have one blade catch a rib, and
Yep.
come on,
Yep.
I'm past the gimmicks, man.
Yeah.
These
I want
are-
something that goes exactly where I want it to go, and
How are these?
It's actually a BHA member makes those out of New Mexico.
Really?
if you open that up, that is a pretty sweet design and a pretty badass broadhead. We're yet to really experiment with them. We got them a little too late to do too much with them this season, but
Meekoff's a big fan of them.
I've seen pictures of them.
supposedly you can put that through a shoulder blade, and if you were shooting a heavier arrow, that thing, with that chisel design, that's it's going through.
I started reading some stuff
it's pretty heavy.
about guys shooting the 2 bleed even at elk. just because of how straight it shoots.
Right.
But yeah, I'm actually gonna go. I'm gonna try. I've never shot 125 grain head before. I've always just shot 100 grain heads, but I'm gonna try the 125 grain head just in the 1 inch and see how that works.
Right.
I might have to drop down to the 100 grain, which still isn't gonna hurt me spine wise, or forward to center really, or anything like that. It might give me a little bit more speed, but 25 grains, that's not going to be a ton.
Right.
Another thing that you can do too is Gold Tip makes a system. They're little brass weights, and they thread into, I don't know if you're familiar with these, if you've seen these, but you pull your knock, and they give you this real long Allen wrench. And they're little weights, and they come in 10s, 5s, 25s, 50s, 100s, and they screw right into the back of your insert. So you can run a normal aluminum insert, and then like on my longbow arrows, I put 100 grains of weight on that insert, and then I just run a 100 grain broadhead. Or whatever I want. Like my compound arrows, I run 100 grains of weight behind my insert, and then 100 grain broadhead, so I'm shooting 230 grains up front on my.
It's nice.
And you don't have to mess around with different weighted inserts or whatever.
Yeah.
You can put that weight on there. You can shoot it, see what it does. You can take a little weight out. You can add a little more.
That's
Dude, it
nice.
is such a nice tool.
And they're a lot cheaper than going out and buying all new broadheads.
Right.
Yeah.
If you just bought 600 grain broadheads the season before, well, yeah, you can just go buy these weights instead of having to buy all brand new broadheads, because they're $40 for 3 of them now. You know?
No, it's the insert that they screw into?
They screw right into the back. So if you were to take a flashlight and look at, or look at an insert, or you have it out of the arrow, it's threaded all the way through. And in some instances, sometimes the threads on the back side might have like a burr on it or whatever. You can just take a tap.
Yeah.
You can take a tap and just run a tap through there with a little oil and clean it up. And then you just thread that thing right into the back side.
When you're gluing your insert in too, some of it'll kind of seep around the back of your insert and kind of block those threads, so you got to chase something through the front of it.
And Gold Tip is the one that makes the system, but on the weights they have different diameters, and you just match it up with, like I have them in Carbon Express arrows, Easton arrows, whatever. You can just run that weight system on there, and it's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty slick.
It's a game changer.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, because it's like I went with the Easton the brass insert where you can break off part of it. So I'm gonna try that.
Right. But see, then once you're in there, you're committed, right?
Yeah.
There's no messing around, which is what's nice with the weights. You can pull it right out, change it, do whatever.
Yep.
So I found it to be a huge advantage. And yeah, those broadheads, we had a promotional code with them last year, and I don't even remember what it is at this point, and I haven't talked to Luke, the owner, but those are all machined out of single piece of steel right up in Minnesota, and it's a family-owned business, and we'll probably get him on the podcast again soon, or at least talk to him and get like a promotional code. But I have a set of the practice heads. And when I started shooting this summer, I never shot my bow this year. I would always shoot 2 broadheads and 2 field points. That's just how I practice, and they're all just you can't aim at the same thing because you're ruining arrows.
Yeah.
And that's at 60 yards, and I was just like, wow, man, these things are, because I shot Montex for a long time.
I remember right when we first got these, you're always so skeptical of broadheads. And I was like, I'm just going back to 60 yards. I shot a field tip, sunk it, and I was like, well, let's see what happens. And I shot it and just, shaved the fletching off my last arrow. I was like, holy fuck, it actually works.
My heart starts racing when I draw back with a broadhead. I'm like, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
What's going to happen?
The cool thing, too, is that they have a sharpener specific for those. And I can't remember if it's a 30 or a 60 degree cut on the blade angle, but you can see they're obviously pretty rigid.
Yeah.
And you can just run them right through the sharpener again. And one guy said he killed 9 deer this season with one broadhead.
Jeez.
And he threw shoulder blades and everything. He just pulls it out, runs it through the sharpener, puts it back in the quiver.
That's one thing I've never shot before is a broadhead like that. It's either been mechanical or
the slick tricks are
fixed.
very similar.
Yeah.
But
You've seen me put my slick tricks together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they're great.
I was gonna ask.
Is there any more questions?
Yeah, is there any keys to success with hunting with your spouse?
Oh,
anything
Jesus,
that
that's
people,
a loaded question.
anything that people wouldn't, that you might be like, well, after the fact that we've been doing it a couple of years, maybe.
With us, I am lucky that he is as patient as he is, because I'm a Spitfire.
I'd say both of you are pretty lucky. You guys have a pretty unique thing where you can
We
go
do.
for 10, 12 days on a mountain, not kill each other.
Exactly.
You know, I mean,
and,
that's a rare thing these days.
and like I said, I feel that he would want to kill me more than I would want to kill him, because I'm just a pain in the ass to deal with, like 80% of the time. So it just depends on each other's personalities, and we both mood.
Yeah.
We both share the same passion, so that's what keeps it going, and we can let a lot of shit go and just, okay, we are chasing elk.
Yeah.
That is what we were doing.
I mean, I think the biggest thing is communicate. I mean, talk about what you want to do for your plan for the day.
We figured that out last year.
If
go to bed having different ideas
Yes.
and wake up
Right.
in the morning
Yes,
and
that
we're like,
is-
all right, we're going that way.
That is true.
or if you get a question like, hey, what do you think we should do? Okay, let's do this. And you do it and it doesn't work. And then somebody gets mad and
Me.
it's like, that's hunting. That happens. I mean, your decision isn't always going to be the right one every time. But
yeah, more often than not, it won't be.
yeah. So
if it was, we'd have a lot more hunters, I think. you
Yeah.
know.
And it's like communicating, whether your spouses or non-spouses hunting. You have to communicate. And at the end of the day, like I said, we both love to do the same thing. It can be a double-edged sword. For instance, he's going ice fishing in a few weeks with his buddies, and I want to go, and I can't go. So that kind of sucks once in a while, and we have to trade off when we want to whitetail hunt. So it's like, well, who's going? Who's watching the dog? And we spend a lot of time together, and we're still here. We're
Yeah.
still married.
it's just nice when you both have the same focus and drive.
Yep.
Well, you
Yeah.
guys
The same thing.
understand the
Yeah.
struggle
Yeah.
of finding time
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah,
And-
when
Right.
you're working together for a common goal,
Yeah.
you
And
kind of set the bullshit aside.
Yeah.
we both get stressed. We both get frustrated, but it's all mutual. You know, we're frustrated for the same reason, not because we hate each other, but
Right.
because we hate the elk.
Mhm.
And we keep plucking on, and we'll encourage each other, and not necessarily hunting, but in the off season, like working out. He bitches about wanting to go to the gym. I'm like, just go to the gym. You know, you got to do it, whatever. And he'll do the same thing to me when it comes to eating, or, hey, you need to stop drinking so many beers because there's a lot of calories in there. So we really just encourage each other on a lot of that stuff.
That's
Yep.
cool. You guys are on the same plane. You
Yeah.
know, you're on.
Right.
You're
Yep.
building towards a common goal.
Yes.
Yeah, I would
Yep.
think in Western states there is more of a mentality that this is the lifestyle. But yeah, when you come over here to the Midwest, there's not a lot of. I don't know any women personally that would be willing to go for 2 weeks and say, hey, I'm gonna stay in a tent and
Yeah.
Hot shower for 10 days.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I didn't. Ugh. I could have greased an engine with my hair.
But how much truth is
the
it to, like, when you
10
come
days.
home and you take a hot shower and all that? Like, life is just so much better, right? It
It-
gives you
Oh.
perspective.
It is, but it isn't. It changes you as far as you appreciate different stuff. You have a different mindset. The little stuff doesn't matter. It's hard to explain unless you've gone out for 2 weeks elk hunting in the mountains
Right.
and come back. It's a whole different perspective on life.
You appreciate the hot tub in the hotel on the way home after 2 weeks of walking through the
Oh,
mountains.
sure.
In your sports bra and underwear because you don't have a bathing
Swimsuit.
suit.
Right?
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, seriously, it was fun.
I mean,
We've been there before. When we go up to deer camp, there's a hotel by our camp, and for $5 you can use their showers and swim in the pool and stuff.
Nice.
So, you know, you walk in there after 5-6 days of sitting in a
Take
camper.
full advantage of it.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yep.
What would you say to, the female perspective of hunting? Is there anything in the last couple of years that you've, like, watched changed or witnessed, or things that are changing that you're kind of like, I don't really feel the same way about that, or what. I mean, there's got to be a different perspective coming from a female point of view,
Well,
right?
because I've had a couple IPAs in me, I'll be a little more candid.
Please do.
I really don't like the whole racy pictures. You know, I'm going to take the best pictures
Right.
with the most cleavage showing, with the most makeup, just to get sponsors, just to get this. And that,
But everybody, that's like, I think everybody can see through that, right?
to an extent, it's frustrating for females like me who work their asses off. Who
are actually out there grinding it out.
Yeah.
Yep, who love what they're doing and are in it for the right reason and not just for the attention. So it's really, it pulls me in two different directions as far as the hunting industry, because I feel like that's what it's all about and it's hard to get away from. So
Well,
it's like I want to get into the hunting industry, but I don't want to be that whole
I can say
perspective.
from my perspective as having a 5-year-old daughter that I'm glad women like you are out there that aren't like, hey, I have to shoot my bow in yoga pants and a bikini, you know, in order to get likes on Instagram. It's like,
yeah, it's
Well,
There
you're doing it for a different reason.
I
Right.
am, and like I said, I have some good relationships with a couple of different companies right now, couple sponsorships, and well,
Shout
one
'em out.
sponsor, Tall Time Bowstrings. I said I had to give a shout out to him, and I do. Before I forget,
That's cool, and we'll
They're-
link it because I like anybody that supports like females in your
Yeah,
position. Like you're
and-
saying, you're not, you know, if you go to your Instagram account, it's not a bunch of like you're not trying to get on the bikini bow fishing calendar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
yeah, exactly.
And I'm not knocking those girls because there's a place for that
There
too. There's
is.
enough space for everybody to do their
There
thing.
is.
And I would think from somebody in your viewpoint, like you're like so serious about it, where it's just like, oh, it's cute.
Yeah,
I mean,
Like,
good for
you're
you.
cute.
Good
Like
for you.
that's really cute.
let's
Yeah.
face
Cool.
it, there's guys doing the same thing too. It's just you're not
100%.
stopping to look at their picture on
Yeah.
Instagram when you're
Yeah.
scrolling.
Dude,
through.
Cameron Haynes does not have over 1 million followers because of his personality,
No.
right?
No.
I mean, he's a cool guy. He's a nice guy,
He is.
but he's handsome as fuck.
Yes.
And in
Yes.
super great shape, and those people typically get a lot of attention.
Anybody
and you can do
attest
that.
to that with
you can multiply that X factor with females infinitely.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. But the bowstring company I'm with, they're there's a ton of bowstrings out there, kind of a dime a dozen type thing. But they're so laid back. When I got affiliated with them, they encourage giving each other shit, like on our personal Facebook page, and that's awesome. And that's the one thing that drew me to them. And the owner's great. Their customer service is good. And when was I with them? Last summer. And the bowstrings are awesome, zero problems with them. So they're not a piece of shit company. And I do have a promo code.
Where are they out of?
South Dakota.
Okay.
Yep. Philip Johnson.
Do you know the
is
code?
owner. It's on here somewhere.
If you give us
Yeah, we'll put it up.
information,
Yeah,
we'll link it
yep,
on, the
on Instagram
YouTube
story
and
So
or
if anybody's
something.
looking for bowstrings, do they
Yeah.
do like custom bowstrings and
Yep.
colors and all
Oh,
that stuff?
yep. He will tailor anything.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely
seen
anything.
them on-
Traditional.
Okay, cool.
Traditional or compound. So, had to give a shout out to them.
You
and
guys were working. Are you guys working with a gear company, or were you?
I started with Scent Blocker, and that's a whole nother story with that whole drama fest. But I'm pretty good friends with the marketing guy, who is also the marketing guy for Numa.
Yeah, I never
Numa
saw it or
Outdoors.
knew it
Yep.
until a couple weeks ago when I saw you guys.
Yep.
They make good stuff. I mean, you're going to pay the money, but you pay the money, it's lifetime guarantee.
Yep.
There you go.
That is so
I've
that was so
actually
huge in my
never
book.
heard of it. Numa?
PNUMA.
Yep.
Numa. Yep.
Hmm.
Numa Outdoors. And, like Pat, he's 6'3", 6'4", and it fits him.
They make tall
Sizes.
Gotta
Well,
let Bomber
It
know.
is.
Bomber, the one guy that sits in here on every week, is literally a human condor. So we'll appreciate it.
Yeah, he's always looking for stuff that fits
It's-
aliens.
That's really good. I haven't been able to test it like in rain conditions yet, but
Because you just got it during late bow season.
yeah.
So do they make a whole layering system and a
Yep.
bunch of? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I got the merino wool shirt on, but they're top of the line jacket and pants. They also make a bib in it, and that's what I got, and layer underneath it. So there's so many different layerings that you can do.
Yeah.
First Light has that same stuff. Sitka has layering systems. Kuiu has that too.
Yeah, there's a few companies that are really starting to get caught on.
Yeah.
I see new ones pop up every week, and it's probably more that I'm paying attention to it now too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
But they're just it's stout. It's built well. The stitching's really good.
Yeah, because you've worn a lot of stuff.
Where did you
and
find them?
She found it actually.
I actually, funny story. It showed up. Was it last year or the year before? 2
year
years
before.
ago. On the stupid sponsored ads on your Facebook, which
Yeah.
I get sick of. And I'm scrolling through. I'm like, Numa, it's camo hunting. I've never heard of it, so of course I'm going to research it.
Right.
And I looked into it just to see if they had a women's line, because at the time I was looking for women's gear.
Right.
And
That's a problem, right?
Not now so much, but it was a couple years ago. and
Still
I-
pretty limited.
Yeah. Yep. Like, well, that's why I inquired on Numa, and I asked if they were going to come out with a women's line, and he said no. And well, long story short, he was also with Robinson Outdoors, which is scent blocker and that stuff. And he's like, how about I start you up on like a sponsorship with scent blocker, and then when we get a women's line in Numa, then you'll already have your foot in the door. We'll have established a relationship and can go from there. So I started with scent blocker, and then that went under. And I still have a good relationship with him, which is why I have a hard time going anywhere else, because I'm like pretty committed to you. You've been great to me and loyal.
If the stuff fits,
and
that's what people always ask, like, what's the best or this or that. I'm like, what fits you? Like,
Yeah.
everybody has a different body.
Right.
All
Yep.
stuff's pretty comparable.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
price points can be a little bit of a variable, and you want to look at the back end of the deal, like what's the warranty, who
Yep.
makes it, who supports it, do
Yep.
they have good customer service.
Yeah.
But really at the top end of that list, what's your body type and how is this stuff
Yep.
made and does it fit you?
Yep.
And you might need bibs from Sitka and a jacket from Kuiu.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to
You
do
open
that.
Yeah.
my bib or my bin of hunting stuff. There's
Everything.
everybody.
Mishmash.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Right.
Yep. But with that scent blocker stuff, even I wore it out west last year, and it
That was good too.
It didn't do me wrong at all. People knock on scent blocker a lot, but I really liked it.
Yeah.
And so I reached out to the marketing guy after we got back and to see what he could do for him, and still had to buy all the clothes. We're not sponsored by him at all or anything, but just kind of pointed us in the right direction, and he wore it the latter part of the whitetail season and absolutely loved it.
There's a few
So-
more pieces I want to get next year just for out west and for late season whitetail hunting.
There's always a few more pieces.
Oh, I know.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
I'll pretty much
yeah.
have everything in the catalog
You
after
just
next
Yeah.
year.
You
No,
can see
I
what's
got it.
happening.
I'm done. I've got it all sorted out. Oh,
me.
that's a nice new jacket. I
Right.
gotta
Yeah.
get
Go
that.
with that. Well, he texted me. He's like, "Can I order this?" I'm like, "I don't give a shit. I don't care."
The cool thing is, like, if you buy good quality stuff and it holds up and you really like it, every year you can add a couple pieces. And it
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
crush you.
Yeah.
And then after a couple of years, you're like, dude, I got a badass system.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's I
So.
told him the test will be out west next year with that Numa line.
And I think it'll be good. I mean, they have like 4 different kinds of pants. So I went with the heavier ones for cold, and with the bibs just for cold, just to keep the air from getting underneath your coat and stuff like that. But then got the lighter pants and a little bit heavier pant for out west that you can use on a rainy day or use on a hot day, and you can take stuff off and put stuff on so easy. I mean, that's with anything out there too, but
Right.
I really like the stuff. I mean, it's really
Yeah.
good.
How
Very
does it
cool.
relate to like stand hunting, Midwest whitetails? That's what I've noticed. A lot of companies aren't
Yeah.
focused on that at all. There's a
Well,
handful of them that are still making like your traditional hunting bibs and stuff like that. But a
that's
lot
There's
of
a
the
gap.
it's a mountaineering
Yeah.
thing. A lot of it,
I mean, it's just like a lot of these bigger companies are layering systems.
right?
So if you get the right layers underneath, you can just sit there forever. And the jacket and the bibs have been an amazing windbreak. I mean, I could sit out in the wind and you don't feel a stitch of wind coming through there.
Mm-hmm.
So that part's nice, but to get the right layering system down underneath that is key. I mean, it's just like any of the layering systems out there.
Right.
But it works. I mean, I'd have no problem. I can't sit more than 4 hours in a stand anyway anymore.
Yeah.
But I'd have no problem doing that.
Him and I actually hunted -18 on New Year's Day, and
that's friggin' cold.
It was brutal, but I mean, it was anywhere that I had gear, I was fine. But like once you took your fingertips out of your gloves to draw back or whatever, no recovery.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, but he was wearing a lot of Playthol. I had a mix of Playthol and First Light on, you know, and like First Light makes a real heavy bib and Playthol makes a heavy bib with like a mountain pant and like a merino base layer and stuff. You're not going to make it. You got to have like an inch of insulation on you.
Yeah.
We went hunting with some friends down in Ohio a couple weeks ago, and they had some real nice Kuyu stuff, which is great because they hunt southern Ohio a lot in the mountains, and they're covering a lot of ground, and they're moving a lot, and they need, you know, that gear that's going to allow them to travel long distances, and when they get there, be comfortable.
Yep.
But let's face it, southern Ohio is a lot different than northern Ohio come January.
Right.
Yeah.
And our friend Chad, I think he had a total of 18 of those little carbon charcoal heater packs stacked on his body at different points, you know. And I was like, you might want to look at some, you know, a couple different options for some late season.
I didn't even really think about it at the end of the day. I was like, man, it's not too bad out. It actually warmed up. I feel pretty good. And they're like, it is fucking freezing out here. What are you talking about? But I was walking around. I had bibs on, you know, and a nice puffy coat and everything. And they were wearing Kuyu. They had all full Kuyu on. When that picture of Chad's floor of his truck, it was just like energy drinks, beef jerky, and just just packs of hand warmers just everywhere.
Yeah, dead batteries and hand warmer.
Oh, have you guys ever seen the Fire Cell?
No.
Hand warmers?
No.
I don't like it.
So it's only about that big, and the one that I have, it's an oval shape, but they also make like a rectangular one too. But there's a metal plate on top and the bottom. It's also a flashlight, but it's a hand warmer, and you can put it on a low setting just on top, or a low setting on both sides, and then a high setting on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll sit there with that thing in my muff, and it gets hot, but not hot to where it's like it's going to burn you hot. But it gets warm enough to where you could hold it and have your other hand wrapped around your hand and switch it back and forth just to keep it warm. It lasts for 5 hours.
Oh, wow.
And you can charge a cell phone off of it because it has a USB port on it.
That's pretty cool.
Which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
So you're not ripping through hand warmers
all year
I feel like
long.
it doesn't get as warm as your hand warmers. 'Cause my hands get absolutely frigid cold.
See, the hand warmers, once you grab them, you get that heat for 10 seconds and it's gone. Then you got to let go of it.
See, I think it radiates like in your muff or whatever, so I can keep one in, and you
keeps
don't have
the air around it.
you don't have to hang on to like that fire cell. You can just stick it in, and the whole thing's warm. But
you know,
to each their own.
I've been playing with my layering system for the last couple of years, and I have it down to where like when we went and hunted, and he said my camera, I had a camera out when we were hunting, and the little swamp edge that I was in, it recorded 20 below that morning that we were out there, and I sat for 3.5 hours. I sat for 2.5 hours extremely comfortable. The following half an hour I got cold. The half an hour after that was like survival mode.
It was fucking
survival.
Shivering.
But I was able to stay on stand for 3.5 hours and 20 below.
That's pretty good.
And I was talking to one of my dad's friends. You know, he's been hunting since the 60s, and he's like, that's not humanly possible. When we were hunting with the gear we had, he said, your new gear must be pretty state-of-the-art. I'm like, it appears to be. The guys that run this company, Playthol, they go out west and hunt elk, but their passion is Midwest whitetails. And so I just kind of stumbled across this stuff, but they have, I think, a unique spot in the market where it's like an advanced layering system, but a lot of it is built on a platform that goes around Midwest whitetail hunting.
Sitting.
getting to where you need to get to without being a sweaty mess,
Yeah.
but then being able to stay warm once you're there.
It's a
Right.
tough market, man. I mean, it's a hard
is.
thing. It takes years to figure it out, really.
Yeah.
Honestly.
It does.
You can't just start whitetail hunting and learn how to be comfortable like your first season.
No.
It's
No.
fucking impossible.
Yeah.
You're going to have some shivery, miserable hunts before you finally figure it out where you're like,
Unless
oh,
you,
I got to put this in my backpack while I
Yep.
walk out
Right.
there
Yep.
and then put it on.
Well, it's a lot different now. I mean, I started listening to that Kafaru cat. Well, I started listening to Gritty Bowman a while back. And Aaron Snyder's super smart about, I mean, you know, high country backpack hunting and layering and things of that nature. And, you know, he's been in situations where he literally had to survive overnight. And so I picked a lot up from that, and I kind of applied it to what we do and find a middle ground. And the first year I bought all this stuff, I was like, oh, I got it all figured out, you know. And I was really comfortable, way more than I'd ever been. And then the following year, I reached out to those guys to buy some new pieces. And I was telling them what I'm doing. He's like, why are you doing? Can I make a suggestion? And I'm like, yeah, go ahead. He's like, why don't you try this? And I did that. And I'm like, oh, this is way better. Like, yeah, people that have been doing it, that know, that build the stuff, you can just take that advice and apply it. And I did. And now, even still, we're adding pieces to it. We got a couple new pairs of, like, puffy pants.
Yep.
That'll go on underneath bibs. And, dude, it's a done deal, right?
Those are
I mean,
huge.
Yeah, I was just messing around with them before you guys got here. They just came in and I put them on. I was like, wow, these are pretty nice, you know.
they're warm. I put them on in the house. I had them on for 1 minute. I'm like, these are too warm. Like,
It was an eye-opener for me when, like, the first half of our elk hunt, you're hiking your ass off, you're sweating, you're warm, you know, you're comfortable, but you sit down to glass, and I couldn't sit more than 10 or 15 minutes.
right. It's
Like,
a
I
cold.
was just sweating my ass off about 10 minutes ago.
It's a problem.
Yeah, as soon as that all gets cold, you're
Moisture,
screwed.
wool.
Yep.
Yep.
Apparently, First Light has some new products, a new line of what they call it Arrow Wool.
Arrow wall, yeah.
It's actually
And-
not Arrow Wool. Arrow Wool was last 2 years ago or something.
Yeah,
where
but
that was still actual wool. No, 100% merino. Now, whatever, I can't think of the name of it, but they're stitching spandex into it.
Oh.
So it
well,
actually-
they have some new garments, and specifically one that I'm interested in is the boxer brief. That's Arrow Wool,
Yeah.
and the guys on the Kafaru cast said it is absolutely like revolutionary.
Yeah, it was some kind of new wool where it's like 90% merino, 10% spandex. So it actually, because if you wear merino a lot, it stretches out. It starts
Yeah.
to hang off you, where this
Right.
actually will kind of keep its shape. And
I do have I have a set of First Light gear, and I wore that a few days out there, and the merino wool is awesome.
Oh, you
Like, the
can't
base
beat it.
layers, absolutely awesome. But the problem with the women's pants, in my opinion, is they're like wind pants.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to do a stalk is impossible.
Right, some of that stuff.
He was
noisy.
bitching at me the whole time, like, change your pants. I can hear you from a half mile away.
Yeah, your bibs are a little
So-
noisy, aren't they?
Yeah, they're not super bad, you know. I have the sanctuary bibs where it's like
Oh, yeah.
it's like wearing a 0-degree sleeping bag out in the woods. Like if you're walking, you got to have they have hip vents on them, and you got to have them open, or else you're sweating too much, you know. But
Right.
I mean, when you're sitting, when we went up for rifle season and whatnot in November, the one day it was 3 degrees.
Yeah.
So you gotta have those layers when you're setting up a lone wolf and you're trying to balance between not getting too hot while you're hanging your tree stand.
Oh.
Mhm.
I had game bags, so I stuffed all my heavy outer stuff in a game bag, and I tied it onto my bowstring with my bow, so I could hang because the way I set up my lone wolf, I go up one time, so I hang in my steps, with my stand on my back, and then I swing that around, get it on, and my bow rope's running down, and I got my backpack, my bow, and my bibs and jacket in a game bag, so I got to pull that up. It probably looks ridiculous, but it's the only way you can do it without not sweating your ass
Yeah.
off. And then you're in your stand, you got to put your bibs on and your jacket,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then you got to sit there for 12 hours
Yep.
or whatever it is.
This is my pack that I hunt with, and I put my bibs, my jackets, everything in there, and I basically go in a pair of pants and a hooded sweatshirt. And then when I get to where I'm going, I drop that, pull everything out, pull my stuff off, so I'm literally standing in the woods in my long underwear,
Mm-hmm.
shed all that stuff, put my stuff on and get up in my tree.
That's a process. It's a whole.
It
nother
is.
job.
It adds. I mean, I literally leave 3 hours before, daybreak.
Yeah.
Wow.
Sometimes, not always, but in some circumstances,
It's a little rough when you're doing that all, and then you see like a button buck that day.
Sit all day, see one doe.
Why
But
am I
you
doing
just never,
this?
you get trail cam photos and you're like, whoa, that lives out here.
Keeps you
Dude,
going.
No shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Keeps you
So at
motoring
some
on.
point, it will pay off.
It will.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you put the time in, you're eventually gonna cross paths.
Right.
Yeah, for
You guys ever
sure.
tried the heater bodysuit yet?
Never have.
Neither have I.
Yeah, we haven't.
Nope.
I heard it's good.
I should
They-
invest in that.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, he runs that Hardcore Pursuit show. I don't know if you guys ever seen that.
Out of the Western UP.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, he travels all over the country hunting, and his show's kind of blown up. But he swears by those things.
Oh, I'm sure if you're
I mean,
sitting
it's
up.
got to be nice. I mean, there's
Yeah.
a reason why snowmobilers can plug into their, batteries on their snowmobile and heat their gloves and everything. It has to be nice. Oh, I'm cold. I'll just click this button. Wow, I'm warm again.
No, it's
Got
not
a
even.
The
furnace.
heater
Maybe.
bodysuit is basically like a big old
Oh yeah,
insulated
it's
Oh,
bag.
all
big.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about, because I know like Milwaukee makes some jackets where you can take your drill battery, clip it into your pocket, and click it on, and it
has a heat grid through
It's
the
Like
like
a
a
bag.
body,
heater.
like a heated blanket.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
like
I've never
a
seen
big
that,
blanket
yeah.
built into
Yep.
it. Yeah.
Cordless tool battery right into your pocket, turn it on, boom. Just heat it up.
Start walking with a lean because it weighs
Yeah, I
20
know.
pounds.
Yeah.
Dude, let's wrap this up and go to dinner, huh?
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, you got any more last minute questions for us?
What
When
do
are
you
we
wanna
going to do
eat?
this again?
Anytime.
Yeah,
Ready whenever.
Before
It's always fun
before
BSing about
turkey
hunting.
season.
right. Yeah, it's cool. I'd definitely like to have you guys on again. This was fun.
Yeah.
So we could probably cover some more stuff. We didn't even get to the beach.
All we did is we covered one hunt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Talk for
Yeah.
hours.
Because I was thinking in my head, I'm like, oh, we'll talk about this and this and this, and we didn't even get to half of
We
it.
beat the brakes off of BHA the last couple of weeks.
Oh,
But
yeah.
it is nice that you got what's exactly
Just a board member.
yeah.
Yeah,
But that's cool.
Me and Stacy are the new ones. There's so much to learn about that. I really haven't dove into anything like that
Yeah.
until now, but
Right.
it's very interesting, and I'm learning. I'm
That's
trying
cool.
to learn.
Right.
Yep.
Well, we're just so lucky in this state to have Meekoff and Drew Youngdyke kind of
Yeah.
like
oh my God,
taking
yes.
the reins of stuff. I mean, those
Huge.
guys are
Yeah.
no joke, and they work their asses
They
off
do,
on it.
and
It is
that
cool.
that's actually who I learn a lot from is all
Yeah.
the stuff that Drew posts on there, and
Yeah.
then just doing my own research.
Guy's too
but
smart for his own good.
He is. He really
He's too motivated.
I had him
He
on
needs to
last week, and
relax.
I listened back to it, and I'm
that
like,
one.
I sound dumb. And it's by no fault, maybe partially my fault,
Yeah.
but when you're sitting there talking with a guy like that, I mean, I'm just like, I barely sound human.
Yeah, I know.
Well, you're smart enough just to let him talk. So
That's
that
the
says
deal.
something.
That's how I pull it all together and balance this whole thing out is by having people like him come on.
Instead
So.
of 4 drunk guys in a garage week after week.
yeah.
So.
Right.
Or
Disclaimer.
two married couple that are no names and just hunt and whatever.
You have names. They're nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we'll definitely come back.
Yeah.
For sure.
Good
Good.
deal.
Kind
You're not sick of barbecue after being in Texas for a week, are you?
No,
Shouldn't have
oh,
any.
Jesus. I didn't have any barbecue.
There's this killer barbecue place right by here. I think we'll go get some food there.
Okay, cool. No,
delicious.
Texas was alcohol and more alcohol and more alcohol. I'm still recovering.
Well, cool. Well, thank you guys.
Yeah,
Thanks for
not a
coming over.
problem.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening. We'll do it again.
Yep,
Appreciate
sounds
it.
good.
See you.
for free.